Hello, everybody. Welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today is Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? Is it Monday? I think it's Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? It's Tuesday. It's got to be Tuesday. It's April the 6th, 2021, and I'm your confused host. My name is Carey Holzman. I have been so buried in work, I don't even know what day of the week it is. It's every day is a work day. You know, when you're self-employed, you don't get days off. You don't get weekends off unless you force yourself to take them. You don't get to clock in, you don't get to clock out. So every day is just another day to make money and help people. Ideally, I'm helping people first and making money second. What's really cool is when people help back. You know, when I started this channel, what I wanted to do was create videos showing how a real technician works, because most of the tech channels on YouTube are from enthusiasts. And again, don't have a problem with enthusiasts, but where's the actual work from people in the industry? So I thought, you know, nobody else is doing it, I'll do it. And of course, there are some others out there, and I hope to continue to see that of a more balance of content here on YouTube. But one of the things that really surprised me are the number of people that were interested in what I was doing and how the channel has grown. And the way the channel grew, I never saw it coming. There were some, and continue to be, some very generous viewers out there, and it's quite an interesting place, the internet. On one hand, you'll have people tell you you're a complete idiot, who they themselves are anonymous, and you don't know who they are, how old they are, or what qualifies them to have such an opinion. And then on the other hand, you have very kind and generous people who are appreciative and value what you do. Now in business, right, you're gonna have that too, but you just simply don't work for people that don't see value in you. You move along to the next customer. It's sort of like dating, I suppose, where you can, somebody can have an opinion of you that may or may not be fair, and consider that you have no relationship value, and somebody else will say you're the person of their dreams, right? So rather than waste any time trying to convince the other person they're wrong, you just quickly move along. But what's interesting on the internet is people physically stop you in your tracks to tell you what they think of you, even though they were never asked. But what's also interesting is people will contribute generously, even though they were never asked. And it's such an interesting diversity of how the internet, the way people interact on the internet. I philosophically find it very interesting. And so one of the things would be, for example, that I have had people who will say, you know, give me, but they never give anything to me, right? And they're just users. And I like to give everybody the benefit of the doubt and assume that everybody's got good intent. And and I do let myself get a little more used and abused than I think most people would allow, but I give people an opportunity to acknowledge it and correct it, or, you know, make it right. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And one of the things I find particularly interesting is that when I make these videos, I make them completely for free. I could charge for the content. I've had people tell me that watching my videos got them started in a career, or they changed their lives, or that the school teachers or even paid colleges were using my videos in the classroom for instruction. And I was not being compensated, nor am I being compensated for that. And I'm okay with that. And that's my gift. It's my gift to those who wish to receive it. If you don't wish to receive it, I don't really care, right? It's like, here's this thing, and if you'd like it, you're welcome to it. And if you don't like it, you're welcome to walk away. And so when people give, and they give generously or they give often, I feel sort of obligated to those people to give again. In other words, in the relationship, I started by giving, and I expected nothing in return, because a true gift should not be an obligation. A true gift shouldn't require you to like it. It's the thought that counts. And a true gift shouldn't require a gift in return. Now, that being said, I was raised in a way where if somebody does something for you, if possible, you do something back for them. But somebody has to go first. So I've gone first by making the content, releasing it for free, and keeping it up on YouTube and fighting. I've had 3 or 4 fights with YouTube over the last 13 years. I'm still here, so guess who won? fighting to continue to give out free information, and I hope it's also entertaining. But because it is the internet, there are people who feel as though I'm not being fair to them because they're in a position where they can't give, or they've at least convinced themselves of that. And when I give back to people who give to me, I've been told things like, you're just helping your rich friends. So I think this is probably someone that's a child or has the mentality of a child and doesn't really understand the word rich. Every one of my friends is rich. Not financially, they're rich in other ways. And financially rich people don't stay financially rich by giving their money away. So they're not rich people. What they are is kind and generous people. They're people who wish to share and show their appreciation and encourage me to make more content. And so in their contributions, it enables me to buy better equipment. Perhaps I will get a studio, or maybe this place will work out, but it enables me to make more content of better quality, video and audio quality, and encourages me to keep going and making more. To the people who just take and take and take, and then they say, well, this isn't fair, you're giving back to people who gave to you. But I can't give to you because I'm not rich. You don't have to be rich to give. That's a completely false statement. And so what I want to do on this stream is return favors to people that have been outstanding in the community and showing their kindness, their support, and financial support for the channel, not because they're rich. I don't think any one of these people are what we would call or define as rich financially. But where they are rich is in understanding value. They are rich in their humanity. They are rich in kindness. They are rich as a human being, as a being that is alive on this planet with us at the same time. They stand out amongst a very, very small population. They stand out as a very small population of an otherwise large population. And because they stand out, I want to draw attention to them, and I want to show them my appreciation. That's all it is. And speaking of one, there's Frankie B, a frequent contributor here, contributes $20. He says, here's a little something for the channel, and keep up the good work. Thank you, Frankie. And Mike Podekowitz, another one, $4.99, just contributed. He says, I'm glad to see you. Any word on Studio B? We're still here in this Studio B. Whether or not this is a permanent location is still in limbo. So no, but thank you for the contribution, both Frankie and Mike. I appreciate that. And it sets the example of what today's video is about. I have some parts here that I don't want to sell because I don't want to support them. I don't want customers calling me with problems that may arise because these parts are not of the typical quality that I normally build with. However, I think it makes for good YouTube channel content. And that's what we're going to do today. Is I've got an H370M DS3H motherboard. I think I got this off Amazon Warehouse. This case, you might recognize this case. This came from a repair. I did a repair for free for somebody local. And Rick Hubbard, a very generous contributor here in the chat room who watches us from England, sent over a Corsair 200R case filled with Walker's smoky bacon flavored potato chips. It was a very kind and thoughtful gift. And this case was just a really crappy case. It's cheap. And the guy built the computer himself, or his dad built it for him, made a few basic mistakes, and the thing didn't work, and he's had it for a few months, and saw my videos. He's local. He reached out. I went over. I picked up the computer. I fixed it. This is all on video. I'll have to find the repair. It's somewhere in 2020 because I know the pandemic was going on, where I diagnose and repair the computer, and then we ended up giving this gentleman the 200R case, along with a couple other upgrades, as I recall. I want to say there was no charge to him at all. There was absolutely zero cost to him because of contributors like you. And these contributors also make it possible for me to do the computer giveaways for veterans and people in need. The shipping, I just shipped a computer today to a customer to Pennsylvania, and the shipping prices have gone up. It's now costing me right around $130 on a $2,000 computer. It's $20 just for the insurance. It's another $25 for the packing, so you're at $45 before you've even begun to ship it. So I'm going to have to adjust my prices to adapt to that, but prices keep going up and up and up. Now, the processor we're using in the build is a Core i5 9400. It's not a K, it's just a 9400, which you can tell from the size of the box, came with its own fan. And this H370M motherboard, and I have that 500 gig Western Digital black drive, that the performance, I didn't really like the performance on it, if you recall. So what am I going to do with these parts, So I thought, I've got a few systems I can assemble from parts similar to this. And I want to give them away, or at least offer them up to the people who give the most frequently here. And one of the names that came up is somebody who's got his own YouTube channel. He calls himself Planet Cryos in the chat room. I don't know if he's in there today. I haven't seen him yet. And he's even got a computer store, as I understand it. And he's like, hey, I'll take one of your giveaways. I'll put it on display so everybody can see it. I'm like, hey, that's great. Though this isn't an example of my typical work. And then a couple other names popped up. AC's drafting. Aaron's been very generous here, and he said his father or in-law could use a spare computer. So again, these are not rich people. These are just ordinary, everyday people. And since they've been so kind and generous, I want to make sure to take care of them first. And there's many more people, by the way. I'm just naming these two because these are the first two I'm looking out for to address, and then we'll go through that through the process. Now, obviously, if you're outside of the United States, I'm very limited with what I can do with regards to building and shipping a computer because of the shipping fees and import taxes. However, to those I can help here within the United States, I am going to get through, making an offer to all of you if you found yourself in a situation where you could use an older, maybe not the latest and greatest computer. Like this is an i5, which is faster than many brand new systems being sold at retail stores today, by the way. It's going to have 8 gigs of RAM, 500 gig Western Digital black NVMe drive. And this helps me get the parts out of my place because I'm just getting buried in computer parts. I know, woe is me, right? But I don't think you understand the depth that I'm talking about here. Maybe I've got a picture I can show you of some of the work I've been doing the last few days. I'm trying to get caught up, and this picture right here shows a number of Corsair 200Rs. I think that's just 8 computers right there. If you count those boxes, that's only 8. I think a lot of people don't understand scale. Like they think, well, if you can do 1, you can do 8. What's the big deal? But then you see it and you're like, wow, that takes up a lot of space. Yeah, it also takes up a lot of time. I'm installing Windows manually on each one of those. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not normally this busy, so I don't have like a pre-installation or predefined installation that I can just clone. I also use it as a way of burn-in testing to make sure that everything installs as it should, including Windows updates, to make sure everything is working. And it's a little time consuming, but that's where I differ. I will take more time when I build a computer than most builders do. People are very puzzled when they see me go live talking about how busy I am, and they say, well, you sure do talk a lot about how busy you are. So why do you have this much time to blather on YouTube? My philosophy is when I'm with a client, they're all there is. I don't worry about anything else other than taking care of the client. And I treat YouTube like a client. When I'm here for you. And I'll do whatever I can do to help you. And then when it's done, then I will shift gears and go back to what I was, to other work that needs to be done. I take care of a job completely before I move on to the next one whenever I possibly can. Sometimes it's not possible because I might have a bad part. I might need to wait for a return, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. which ties me into waiting for a return. If you recall, I bought a couple of Thermaltake power supplies. They were cheap. They were like $33. I bought 2 of them, unboxed one to use on a new build, and a screw immediately fell out of the box and the power supply didn't work. Created an RMA with Thermaltake, sent the unit back. I think it was $13 shipping on a $33 power supply. And then Thermaltake just sent me back the replacement, which is what we're going to use in today's build. Where is it? Right here. It's a 5-year warranty on these cheap Thermaltake power supplies. I can't trust these in customer builds. So I have 2 of them. They'll both go in these giveaway computers, because when people aren't in business, they don't understand the support side of it, the warranty costs, the phone calls, the time cost. It will put you out of business if you're not careful. So I sell only brand new equipment to customers that's under warranty from manufacturers that I know and trust. I went out of my comfort zone with the Thermaltake power supply to try it, and right out of the box, right out of the gate, we did not get a good start. Their warranty service was pretty much the same as everybody else's. There was nothing different, unique there. The length of time it takes and the process to create the RMA was all the same. So nothing terrible, but nothing to write home about either. So I'm going to be staying away from their power supplies, Thermaltake power supplies, on on any customer builds. I'll use them for personal builds and I'll use them for personal projects, but it's going to take a while to rebuild any trust. So again, it's only $33 that I spent. That's going to go. So even though this is mostly made up of used parts, power supply is new, the CPU is new, the motherboard is a return from Amazon, as I recall. I think it says Amazon Warehouse on it. Yeah, it's got an Amazon Warehouse sticker on it. But we tested it all out. And what I've been doing off camera is I've been setting all the boards up with RAM, CPU, coolers, storage, installing Windows, activating Windows, getting the updates, getting the drivers, getting any third-party software. If it's got a Samsung drive, putting the Samsung Magician and NVMe driver, or if it's Intel, putting the Intel driver update on, along with making sure all the firmware and BIOSes are all up to date. And then I put the motherboard on the box and on top of an empty case. And then all I have to do when I want to make a video, if I want to show that build, is slap in a power supply, maybe a DVD drive, put the motherboard in. Once it's all wired up, it should turn on, boot into Windows, and be ready to go out. And you should make the videos go by a lot quicker. Once I'm caught up with work, I might slow down and go back to the full process. But yeah, I'm way too busy. That it's just too slow to keep going the way I was going, which is how I got so backed up to begin with. So today's build, again, going out to Planet Cryos. I don't know if he's in there. I see Mitchell Morrison joining us in the chat room. Hey, Mitch, how are you? Mitch was in Vegas. I think he's still in Vegas today. We had a couple more contributions that I've missed here. My apologies. It looks like Tweaks has sent 100 Canadian dollars. Wow, that's very generous. It says, Carey, I've been watching you since 2013, and because of your free knowledge, I built my first of several computers. This also motivated me to go to school and start to get my CCNA certification. Thank you for all you've done on YouTube. You're a gem and keep it up. Oh, that's very kind. Thank you, Tweaks. Kind of takes the sincerity out of the thank you when I have to call you Tweaks. But I do appreciate it. Rick Lakes contributes $20. Rick is another one that frequently contributes here. And Rick, do reach out to me if you want something like this. I've got a few more of these to build. And you've been very kind and generous here. And if it's of interest to you, reach out, let me know. And I would make the same offer to Tweaks, but even getting it to Canada now, it gets very costly. Master Singleton with $5 Australian says, I love everything you do and everything you say and do is great. Where were you in my life? Where have you been all my life? He says, even though I can't give huge sums of money. But anyways, I hope this helps you. It does help. And it doesn't have to be a huge sum of money. It doesn't have to be money at all. For the most part, it's just about giving, right? Giving kindness. Random acts of kindness are some of the most valuable gifts you'll ever give. They may be some of the most valuable gifts you'll ever receive. And as society continues, at least here in Phoenix, as people continue to live more and more in their little bubble that doesn't go further than 6 inches around them. Finding somebody to do the simplest societal niceties, like holding a door open for somebody behind you, is so uncommon in Phoenix here that I will oh, wow, thank you. I'm surprised when it happens. I used to get upset because it wasn't happening. Like that person I'm literally right behind them and they act like they don't know I'm there. Seriously? So I will always hold the door open. That's the way I was raised. And if they don't say thank you, again, it's not truly a gift if I'm expecting something in return. So it is what it is. I still did it regardless. And I will continue to do it. So these random acts of kindness, something as simple as opening up a door, holding it open, something that minor can really have a positive impact on somebody's day. When somebody makes a bad YouTube video, it's not really important for you to click thumbs down to warn other people. In fact, you should find some of the worst YouTube videos you've ever seen where at least they're genuine and sincere. Okay, they're not trying to get a rise out of their viewers, but they're genuine and sincere, but they just, it's just horrible. You should give them a thumbs up for making the effort and encourage them to keep going, because the only way you get better at something is by doing it again and again and again and again and again. And if people are constantly discouraging you, well, that's might be robbing those very people of some great source of education or entertainment or what that person would be capable of creating if they had the support of others. And you don't know these people. You don't know what their upbringing is or what their world is like. You could be that ray of sunshine by being that one person that clicks the thumbs up and leaves a nice comment that says, hey, keep working at it. Keep posting, keep doing what you're doing. You don't have to sit there and judge everything like you're, a critic. There's no damage that's going to be done if you just randomly click on somebody's video and hit thumbs up and say, in your comment, say something positive. Loved it. You're great. Amazing. No damage can be done by doing that. Why aren't more people doing that? Why is that thumbs up or that nice comment considered a reward in exchange for the video that they received? The video you received is the gift. Imagine somebody gives you a gift and you don't like the gift and you tell them, this gift sucks. How do you think that person who gave the gift is going to feel? It's always the thought that counts. And the fact that so few people make YouTube videos, you should be encouraging 99% of them, in my opinion. Because we've got some great future content creators out there who are just rough around the edges. They're just getting started. They're nervous. They're scared. They got to deal with jerks on the internet. It's a lot of pressure. And if you don't believe me, why don't you try it? The reason you're not trying it is why you should be giving the thumbs up to the people who do. So I just see videos constantly that have, hundreds of thousands of views from other content creators and very few thumbs up or thumbs down at all. Like it's too much effort to just click a thumbs up. It's all you have to do. It's just a kind thing. But again, the videos are gifts. And you're not obligated to hit the thumbs up. The fact that you do is what makes it special. It's not expected, but it's appreciated when it happens. That should be the normal as far as I'm concerned. That it should never be expected, it should always be appreciated, and you should be giving them out. You don't have a limited supply of thumbs ups. You don't have to ration them. And I'm not talking about my videos. I'm talking about other great content creators who have lots of views, and in comparison, very few thumbs up or thumbs down. People just can't be bothered. I just think it's a very selfish society, the world, because YouTube is the world. So we're not talking about a certain culture of one country or another. This seems to be flat across the board about humanity. And while I can't change humanity, I don't have to let humanity change me. And I hope you feel the same. A couple more contributions have come in. Let's see, we've got Ken Ryan contributes $4.99. He says, I'm a new guy here from New Jersey, been binge watching a lot of old vids, great content and learning a lot. Thanks. Hey, Ken, well, let's turn you blue. Thanks for being here. I hope you'll stick around. Ben George contributes $14.99. And Ben says, good for you, Carey. It's been a while. Forward this on to those that have kept you alive, so I'm able to see this kindness tonight. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you. AC's drafting, in fact, just talking about Aaron, contributes $50, a very generous contribution. And he's saying thank you to me for the computer. I will, after this one, the next one will go to help Aaron's family. We also have Master Singleton again with $3.06 Australian. He says, here's an additional $3.06. Well, that's very kind. Random, but kind. I appreciate it. Bikeman17 with a $15 contribution said, I've been watching your videos since 2018, and while I've never have that much to contribute, I'm always watching to learn what I can and gain confidence to someday attempt my own CPU cooler upgrade. Well, I think you need to stop talking about it, start doing it. I think you're ready. Thank you. David Griswold contributes $10. He says, hello, just because you're the best, thanks for what you do. David, thank you. You're the best. I appreciate it. Master Singleton again with 10 Australian dollars. He says, I hope this helps with shipping. Yeah, well, nothing was worse than shipping to Australia. That was $1,400 to ship a computer to Australia. Then it had $440 in import tariffs or taxes. That was crazy. Well, I mean, technically it was Tasmania, but it's still Australia, right? I think it is. Your Auto Advocate contributes $20. He says, keep up the great work, Carey. Thank you for passing along your knowledge. Well, thank you. Fred Sunderman with $5 says, I always learn something from your shows. Wayne Trexler with $25 says, here's a little something for the shipping of my giveaway PC. I received it 2 months ago from you. It runs amazing. Thank you, Carey, and the channel. Right on, Wayne. Well, thank you. And Master Singleton again with another $10 Australian contribution. And he said, here's to help you cover shipping. So he's done that twice. Well, thank you so much for all of the contributions. And this is not a telethon. I'm not here to make you feel guilty or I just really wanted to address why these computers were being built and given away to certain people, and that it wasn't just me helping quote unquote rich friends, but that I was helping people who have sacrificed something for me, right? I don't ask you to sacrifice anything for me. Never asked anybody to do it. I'm sacrificing for you. I'm putting myself out in the public as a punching bag to be made fun of, to be teased, to be ridiculed, to be swatted, to have hacking attempts and all kinds of nonsense that I have to put up with. But I was bullied my whole life, growing up. So this is no big deal to me. Like, it's just more of the same. There's no originality. There's nothing clever. These people just are, they're sad. And so I have to march forward. I had to learn the hard way because there was nobody to help me. I had to learn how to stand up for myself, and I had to learn how to shake off the added weight that these unwanted monsters were putting upon me. And I had to learn that I was allowing it. And the minute I learned that and I stopped consenting to it, the way it affected me changed dramatically. And to have this community that I have now with all of you is an amazing turnaround from a lone wolf teenager who couldn't look somebody in the eye and talk to them with very, very low self-confidence, very low self-esteem. And I was just absolutely brainwashed into believing that that my life had no value to anybody. Nobody should ever be made to feel that way. But at the end of the day, how you feel is your responsibility. It's not your neighbors, it's not your parents, it's not your friends, okay? This is on you. It just makes it a lot easier when parents or friends are there to offer support. And when it's a complete stranger on the internet offering support, to somebody. Like, I'm a complete stranger to most of these people. I've never met them. I only see their name in chat, which is often, it's a handle. I don't know what they look like. I don't know how old they are. I don't know what their life experience is. And I treasure that because I grew up without it for a very long time. I'd say half my life. So if you go without something for half your life, I can assure you it will have value to you once you have it. And so one way I can demonstrate to prove what it means to me is to then give back again. Does that make any sense? So this isn't about rich people helping rich people. That's the most preposterous thing I've ever heard. And somebody's sitting there just take, and then they get angry because they weren't included in something else that they wanted to take. They need to learn, if you give more, you get more. And this is generally true in life, whether it's emotionally, financially. It's an interesting dynamic, and I can't really explain it. It's something you have to experience. But sometimes the reward is in the giving. It's not in the getting back. I feel better when I give something to somebody and it's something they wanted. I feel better than them giving me something I wanted. That's just the way I am. I would rather give a gift than to receive one. I feel like, if it's a wanted gift, right? When somebody's like genuinely appreciative of what I've given them, I live vicariously through that. That makes me feel wonderful inside. That is the gift that I would never have received had I not given it. All right. So let's do some building, and let's see if we can stay away from the squirrels now that that's out of the way. That's just, he might make an appearance later. We'll see how things go. Speaking of the devil, there is Planet Cryos. This is the machine I'm going to build for Planet Cryos. Contributed $50 just now. He says, here's just something for you. Thank you, as always. Gainsey95 contributes 30 British pounds. Thank you, Gainsey. And Ramsey El Mouradi with $5 says, excuse me. He says, it's been a while since I was able to catch a live. Hello, Carey. Hey, Ramsey, welcome in. And thanks to all of you contributing. Again, not a telethon. I'm not here trying to draw money out of you. But it would mean a lot to me if whatever the next video is you watch, or the next 3 or 4 or 5 videos you watch, not on my channel, just literally anywhere on YouTube, give it a thumbs up, even if you don't like it, unless it's something vulgar or nasty or, intended to offend or be horrible. Give it a thumbs up. It'll cost you nothing. It's a great gift. And that should be the default standard as far as I'm concerned. Not clicking a thumbs up, regardless if you like the video or not. It's just sort of like ignoring somebody, right? It's within your right. You're not doing anything wrong, but it sure would put you above the rest. Like if everybody in this chat room right now, we have like 370 people in the chat room. If everybody said, from now on, I'm going to click the thumbs up button on every YouTube video I like from any creator, it wouldn't make it, no one would barely even notice. You know what I'm saying? Like there's not enough of us here to make that change. But if we make it for ourselves, if we set the example that for others to follow, I think it's a great way to live. But that's just my thoughts. So I've already prepped the board, and I'll bring the board up to the camera here and show you what I've done. But this is a standard Core i5 9400. The motherboard is a pretty basic micro ATX board. You'll see the Western Digital black solid state drive is in there. Those 2 sticks of RAM, I think that's 16 gigs. I think it's 2 sticks of 8. I have to go back and check. And what I love about these configurations are the lack of all the cabling that has to be done for DVD drives and solid state drives. If there's one thing about like 2.5-inch solid state drives, mechanical drives, and DVD drives, The one thing I hate about it is the cable management. It's ugly, it's a pain in the butt. All I have to do is mount this motherboard into that case, put a power supply in it, hook up power, and hook up the front port umbilicals, and it should power on and be done and ready to ship out. Can you imagine? And the cable management will be very simple. Because we're only using a few cables to begin with, we only have to manage a few cables. Now, normally this is a case I would just get rid of it because I've never had this opportunity to get rid of older hardware apart from taking it to a recycling center or you have to understand in my position, I can't give a computer to somebody and then turn around and have that person start calling me for support, taking me away from paying customers over a computer I give away. Nor can I have it damage my reputation as a business owner if somebody were to have a bad experience with a free computer and then decide to leave nasty reviews about my business. Believe me, there is part of that no good deed goes unpunished. So while I do say the gift is in giving, there are some conditions on it that I have to protect myself as a business. And so by giving to the most supportive folks, I know that those people are less likely going to ask for support because they watch this channel and they learn. Furthermore, I would expect that if they had a problem that they would have tried to resolve it before they reached out to me. And of course, I'd be more than happy to help anybody, obviously. But the problem is when it just gets to be, every other day, the same person constantly, and they start to monopolize my time. And so to avoid that, you charge people. Well, it's hard to charge people for a free computer. I'm sure somebody will figure out how to do it. So this is a good way for me to get rid of older parts, give back to the community that gives to me, and at the same time, not have to worry about any negative ramifications that I can think of. It seems to solve all of the issues with the giveaways for this style of giveaway. Now, we still have the off-lease computers to give away to veterans and people in need, but these are a different level. Those aren't hand-built by me. These are hand-built by me. They're just not to the level that I would have them at to sell them to represent my business, just so we're clear. And thank you to Blackwatch, contributes $5 Canadian. He says, here's a little something for the Squirrel Alert Fund. Maybe might have to buy a toupee. It's not looking good back here, man. It's getting thin. It's thinning out. I don't feel anything. I don't feel any skin. All I feel is hair. But every time I turn my head to the camera and I look at it, and I go, wow, that guy's balding. Wait a minute, that guy's me. The Carey toupee fund. No, I think it's inevitable. I'm going to lose it, but that's okay. At my age, that's acceptable. If it gets to be where I can feel a bald spot, I think you're going to see me one day with a shaved head. I think that'll be the look, and then we'll find out if it looks good on me or not. I have such problems. People in the world looking for a place to sleep at night or where they're going to find their next meal. And I'm sitting here talking about, thinning hair. Life is so tough, isn't it? Okay, so this is a very inexpensive case. It's a cheap plastic window, very easily broken. The materials the case is made from are very thin. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's definitely not up to my standards. This is a case that was sold based on looks. It's called an Cylon, I think is what it's called. Yeah, the Cylon. There's the directions that it comes with. One whole page. It's a wide page. It's still one page. So that's what we're working with today, and I would like to get rid of it. It's a shame to throw a case out that is functional, which is normally what I would do. I would recycle it, but this is perfect for this kind of a build. Stealth mode says, no worries. What does he say? thinning in the front. Yeah, well, there's that. I've always had a high forehead. I don't know if it's always been this high. It may be that I have the same amount of hair, but my head is swelling. You know, from my ego, according to the internet. My arrogance and my ego, because I stand up to defend myself. All right, there's nothing to grab onto to pull the side panel off. I've taken the 2 screws out that hold it in, and usually there's an indent or there's a release lever, there's something, but this is completely smooth, so I'm not sure how, I guess you have to like get a fingernail in there and pull it back. That's, yeah, not good. And again, cheap stuff. We've got 2 3.5-inch drive sleds here for mechanical drives. A little bit of dust in here. Let me see if I can wipe that out. It's been sitting in the garage for quite a few months. What's it been, a year maybe, since I worked on this? And I will try to find the repair video that this case came from. Like I said, we gave that gentleman a Corsair 200R brand new that was contributed by Rick Hubbard in the UK. And Rick didn't contribute it with this person in mind, but he definitely contributed it to be used in the spirit in which it was used. And in fact, I got his blessing just to make sure, because that's an expensive thing to ship. Those cases, the Corsair 200Rs right now are about $69.99. They were $59.99 a couple weeks ago over at Amazon US. But to ship it internationally to England, or from England to the United States. And then on top of that, he opened it up and stuffed it filled with little packets of potato chips from England that I love. Was a super cool thing. Nobody's ever done that before. And, I still see a lot more dust in there. Hold on. Let me grab this is just a standard washcloth, and it's just got water. I run it under the sink. I wring it out so that it's damp, but it's not dripping. And just wipe it down. Any electronics on the outside with a damp cloth. Don't use any chemicals on electronics or even, on the case, anything that houses electronics. And of course, avoid touching any of the circuitry. You would want to blow air on it to clean it. You don't want to use anything wet. And of course, always do that when the machine is powered off. Okay, so that's a little better right there. Looking good, looking good. The top of the case, I know there was something that bothered me, something else. This case has a memory card reader on top, which is weird. Power button, hard drive LED. Power LED there, hard drive LED there. One single USB 3.0 port, which means it's going to take 2 and only give you 1. Then 2 USB 2s. I don't know how many USB ports you got to have. How many cables are there in this thing? Because typically the SD card reader is a USB plug port on the motherboard. Then 2 USBs is a port on the motherboard, and then 2 more USBs would be another port. So unless the memory card reader is being shared on the same connector with the USB 3.0, that would be unusual, but let's just take a look. Typically it is not shared. That looks like front port audio. This is USB 2, so that's going to be these 2. This is your power switch, reset switch, power LED, hard drive LED. This is your USB 3. So maybe the USB 3 is being split into the memory card reader. If that's the case, I'm okay with it. And then we have a standard SATA power connection. I hate this because it's another cable I've got to manage. It's got to come off the power supply. And its sole purpose is to light up an LED right here. That's all it's going to do. I wish we could just use a fan header that I could plug into the motherboard, but it's a cheap case. The other thing that I have to watch out for are these little standoffs. I need to make sure that all these standoffs are in the right place and that I have enough of them to mount this board. Everything looks pretty good so far, and I just realized I don't have any screws for this case, do I? Oh yeah, you know what? The owner of the computer gave me this little baggie And this little baggie has an extra fan. I don't know why. What else do we have in here? Oh, this is a horrible fan. This is one of these fans. Once again, when we go back in time, we go back to the old systems. We used to use these Molex connectors. These should be long gone. I shouldn't see these anymore. And so what they did is they said, well, you can use one or the other. So they gave us a fan header for the motherboard. But if you don't have a fan header on your motherboard, you can plug this directly into your power supply. And you'll see there's only 2 cables in there, just a positive and a negative for the fan. So that is about as crappy of a fan as you can possibly buy. So if you want to buy junk, it looks like AeroCool is going to be your scrape in the bottom of the barrel. I'm sure it's inexpensive, and I'm sure it won't last very long, and I'm sure you'll get exactly what you paid for. So if that's going to meet your expectations, it sounds like AeroCool may be the brand for you. We've got some nylon zip ties, which we'll get to later. We'll definitely use those in the cable management portion here. And then in this bag, we've got more screws for fans, lots of fan screws, and it looks like motherboard mounting screws, which is what I was hoping to find. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the case flat, and I'm going to just dry fit this motherboard by just setting it in place and see where the mounting holes on the board are and where the standoffs are on the motherboard tray in the back of this case, to see if everything's aligning or if I have to move anything. This is pretty standard. It's something you don't see me do when I'm using a 200R case, because I already know we're all, it's a familiar case. I know how it's laid out. I'd never seen this case prior to this, repair that I did. And then it sat in the garage for a year, so I don't even remember anymore. So I have to just start over again and see. Okay, so the first 3 screws align properly. Aha. This board is longer than the board that was in here. And I can say that because there's only, oh, this is interesting. This board is widthwise longer, but lengthwise it's shorter. So there's a standoff. Try and show you what I'm talking about here. See if we can't zoom this in and give you guys a closer look at what I'm referring to and what I'm about to correct. It's something very simple, but it's something that could, if you're a novice builder, it could ruin your day if you don't recognize the importance of these little standoffs. So the motherboard that was in here obviously must have only come down to about here. So these 3 standoffs across the front, these are aligned correctly. But if you look all the way down here at the bottom, there's a standoff. And this motherboard won't go that far down. But this motherboard will use, you'll see there's a small hole here and here and up here. 1, 2, 3. There needs to be standoffs because that motherboard's going to go right to that lip. That's how long this board is widthwise. So not only do we need to add, we need to take this one, because otherwise it's just going to be, we need to use it. And it's just going to be out in the open. The motherboard is going to be above it. We're going to move that one over here, and then out of the bag, we'll put in 2 more, and then I think we'll be good to go. So the standoff locations are important, because if you have a standoff located where your motherboard doesn't have a mounting hole, you can short out the back of the motherboard, and that could toast your whole system. And it's not a warranty issue, because that's not the manufacturer's fault. You short-circuited the equipment. But it's so simple. It's something to just look out for. And it only takes a minute. And you'll see how fast I can do this. I have a little ratcheting tool. I got this at Harbor Freight Tools here in the United States. And what it is, it's a ratcheting kit with a bunch of, ratcheting screwdriver with a bunch of little bits. I don't even use the bits. I use one bit. It's the 5mm, and that's all I use this tool for. But it comes with all these bits in this little foldable thing. And you'll see there's 1 bit missing out of the bag. I will pay $15, whatever, for this tool, just to keep the 5mm socket on it strictly for the point of removing and installing any motherboard standoffs. And some older, if you remember, old motherboards used to have the little screws like on the sides of the parallel port and the VGA port. They're the same size. That's all 5mm. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take that one out of the bottom corner. We're going to move it. We're going to relocate it. Righties, tighties, lefties, loosies. We want to go counterclockwise to loosen. Do not over tighten these, especially on a cheap case, because it'll just spin and spin and spin if you over tighten it, and then it'll never tighten again. And I'm going to move that. I'll just put it right over here for now. Doesn't really matter. I need 3, so there's 1 of 3 that I need. Yeah, once I feel that getting tight, I stop turning. I don't want to stress it too much. And then back in this bag of parts, we've got a bunch more standoffs. I don't know why he's got so many in here. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's at least another 5 standoffs on top of the 2 I just took. I don't think this case has space for all of those. Maybe it does. Usually these cheap cases aren't that generous with the hardware like this one, so I give them props for that. That's a nice touch. But you would assume, wouldn't a case come with all the standoffs that might be required? You'd be surprised if you haven't already experienced that, what the inexpensive case manufacturers do to make a sale. And then they get you with the add-ons, or somebody's going to get you with the add-ons. I suppose the case manufacturer is hoping it's going to be them. That's part of the gamble they take, I suppose. All right, just one more to go. That's going to go all the way up here. That's a lot of screws. It's, wait a minute. That one can't go down there. What am I thinking? That can't go there. It's got to go here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I just put that in the wrong place. That definitely can't go there. The motherboard's not that long, so bear with me as I figure this out. Now, also keep in mind that when somebody's working alone and not on camera, they're going to be making the same little errors I'm making. You just don't get to see it. So I'm either really, really stupid or really, really brave to show you the process, because when you're a field technician, you're going to have to learn to adapt to the machines you're working on. You may often never see the same machine twice, and it requires sort of on your feet thinking, and it does mean a little experimentation, a little bit of calculated risk taking, and sometimes a little overconfidence to humble you. To be like, oh, this is nothing, and you start just robotically going at it, and you realize, oh wait, this is not what I'm used to. This isn't doing the way I thought it would. This isn't going the way I thought it would. That happens. It happens to all of us. And I'm having a really hard time getting this this lid, the top of the case, is just a little too low. And I'm having trouble seeing it because it's very dark in there, and it's not threaded very well. I get it started, and it doesn't want to turn anymore. And again, I want to be cautious, because see, like right now, I'm forcing it to turn against it. It doesn't want to. And then it got really loose. Oh, and now it's tightening again. Whew. Sometimes once it gets loose, it never tightens again. And then I think this one goes down here. I'm going to take an educated guess. Then instead of going straight across, you go across and down one, I'm pretty sure. And if I'm wrong, I will move it. I could check before I begin, but that would require me doing something that wasn't getting work done. So even if I have to undo the work, I feel good that I got it. You know, I made progress, even if I have to undo that progress, because I'm confident that I'm right. But no matter how confident I am, either they're in the right spot or they're not. So we're going to check one more time. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Okay, so the 3 in the front, obviously, they're still there. 1, 2, 3. Then we've got 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there. So a total of, looks like 8. 3, 3 down the middle, and then 2, only 2 at that far edge. So that's a total of 8. I want to count how many standoffs I've got since I can't see through the motherboard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 holes, 8 standoffs. We're good to go. And just so you know what I'm talking about, when I'm counting the holes, we can count them across horizontally or vertically. And I was looking vertically. I said, okay, that one, and that one, right? Top, middle, bottom of the edge. Then we go to the middle of the board. We've got top, middle, and bottom on there. And then on the right side, top, middle, but no bottom. See that? There's no mounting hole in this lower right quadrant. So that's 3, 6, and then 2 more is 8. Now we're ready to put the I/O shield in, and if I'm a good boy and I did my job with my OCD, I should have the I/O shield here in the box. Aha, look at that. Obviously this has been taken out of the package because this is not factory plastic or Scotch tape. So apparently somebody did that. And then the I/O shield fits in the standard way, and it just popped right in there. This can be frustrating on a nice case and even more frustrating on a cheap case because they're typically not cut as accurately or with the same level of precision equipment as name brand cases. It's not that that's a deal breaker. Look, you know, you got to do what you got to do, but just be prepared for doing work you wouldn't normally have to do, that other people don't have to do. I haven't quite got that seated yet. There it goes. Remember what I said. It's hard enough on a good case. So on a cheaper case, this can be very frustrating. But as you can see, if I make it so you can see, we've got the I/O shield in place. The rest of what's in this box, I've got a couple of SATA cables. I've got the cover for the CPU socket, and then the clear plastic container that held the CPU. I don't know why I put that in there. The documentation that came with the Core i5 processor with the Go Faster sticker on the back. This is documentation for the Western Digital NVMe drive. The motherboard manual, this is the case instructions, and that's it. That's all that's in the box. Patrick Russo contributes $5. It says, if you get a bald patch, buy a yarmulke to cover it. Yeah, I've made that joke. Yeah, I've already talked about that. The joke was kind of like, I think maybe that's why they created it to begin with. That may be a reason that it's shaped and positioned like that by the creator. Right, I'll bring this down so I can work on it. Again, you're not going to get much of a view here, but all I want to do at this point now is get ready to seat the motherboard permanently. You'll see I'm holding the motherboard by the heatsink, and I'm using the factory heatsink because this is not a system that's going to run hot. And it's also not a quiet case to begin with, so we're not exactly building this to be a shining example of the highest performance and the quietest sound profile. This is built to a budget to be as good as you can get for what you've got. Got to work with what you got. Like I have to every morning when I wake up and look in the mirror. I got to work with this. This is all I got to work with. Now, with the bag of screws, there's a bunch of different little screws in here, and I'm not quite sure which ones are for holding the motherboard down. Probably would have been a good idea for me to check that before I put the motherboard in. However, not my first rodeo. I'm not too worried about it. Let's see what we got here. And screws. Oh, these are power supply screws. I'm keeping those. We're going to use those here in a minute. Whoa. Okay, well, there's a fine threaded screw and a coarse threaded screw, and it's... Oh, you know what? I've got a spare standoff. I can just do this. So when the screw is a fine, and there's no rhyme or reason to this with case manufacturers, by the way. The little standoff, which I'm holding right here. It's right there. Come on, camera. Sometimes these take a fine threaded screw, and sometimes they take a coarse threaded screw. So if you look at this screw very carefully, this is a common screw on cases, and it's typically used for holding in optical drives or solid state 2.5-inch drives. And if you look, the threads on it are quite, oh, I need smaller fingers. They're quite fine. And you're like, well, how do you know? When you look at the standoff, Carey, you're at a customer's location. How do you know which thread it is? Well, if this was a fine threaded receiver, then this would just go in and tighten as you would expect it. But it's already gone in without me so much as even turning it. And I can even, like right there, it won't even turn any further. It's getting caught between the wider threads inside of the standoff. So what'll happen is it may go in sideways or it'll just twist, it'll never tighten. So this is going to be a coarse thread. And if you're doubtful, if you're like, well, it's still not super obvious to me, then just grab a coarse threaded screw before you make your decision and try the same test and feel it. This is something you really have to feel. Sometimes you can see it, but not everybody can see it. But this is a coarse threaded screw. This is a typical case screw, very commonly used. And if you can't even get it to start, so this becomes interesting because you see it went down about 2 threads and then it stopped. Well, that's very interesting. So that makes me rethink, maybe it is that fine threaded screw after all, or maybe I've got a bad standoff. So I'll set those to aside. I have other standoffs in here, and I have other fine threaded screws in here. And let's see if that fits any better. Yeah, so these are going to take, my first assumption was incorrect. The fine threaded screws are sometimes used to hold down motherboards, but not always. And if you look, I'm a little thrown because it looks like the threads don't immediately start. Oops. It looks like it goes in a little bit, and that's usually an indication that the screw's too small. But that's where the threads start, and then when I start to turn it, it does go in there and it will lock down. So I need 8 of these fine threaded screws. Those are the rounded tops, not the hexagon tops. So we'll count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Some of these are clearly, these came out. I can see where the paint's been scratched off, and hopefully the threads aren't damaged. But if I have any difficulty getting any of these screws to seat, I'm going to assume it's the screw that's been had the thread damaged. I'm not going to struggle with it. I'll just toss it and use a different screw. Now, hopefully, these will all go in without any surprises. And normally, I would love to show you what I'm doing right now, but it requires, somebody like Mitch over here to hold a camera for me and position it so you guys can see. But all I'm doing is putting the screws into those motherboard mounting holes that I just showed you. And if I tried to do that while the system is upright, it would be very, very difficult to get everything to align. I mean, I'm already struggling to get it to align now. And normally, I also don't tighten these screws down because the board needs to be able to wiggle around a little bit That's normal. This lid right here, the top of this case, is getting right up against the screwdriver, and I need to tilt the screwdriver, which makes the screws want to go in on an angle, which will strip the threads out. And I'm trying to be very careful about that. Makes me very nervous. So I only have 2 more left. Again, I apologize. I have an overhead camera setup that has to be assembled. It's like 50%, about half put together. And I haven't had time to finish it because I've had all this computer work getting in my way of my YouTube studio process. But you can see there's the 8 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Got a rear case fan, and that can go, let's see, many of these Gigabyte boards have a fan header up in the left corner, and this one does. I also noticed this motherboard has 2 USB 3.0 headers. That's pretty cool. I didn't even realize that till just now. I'm not going to worry about making anything look pretty at this point. I just want it to turn on and work. So there's our USB. This is also a USB. And there's 2 USB 2.0 headers here, 2 USB 3.0 headers here. Yeah, so normally what I would do is I would take this, see, because we have a case window, we'd want to hide that, bring it out through up there, and maybe bring it in somewhere like here. And then it just gets seated right there. Right there. We don't have a lot of room for cable management. As you can see, if we can put all our cables right in this little gap, then the cover will go back on. But if any of the cables go behind this tray, this lid may have a difficult time, or this side panel. Just a common occurrence on, like I said, cheap cases. And you can see how that could potentially interfere with cabling if you were to put mechanical drives in there. So even though they give you this full plastic side panel, they don't really do anything to help you hide any of the cabling. It's not a very well thought out design, in my opinion. And that's probably why you've never seen this case before, or very infrequently on other YouTube channels. It's not something people would generally recommend or feature for all those reasons I just said. That's the reset switch. Here's the hard drive LED. I'm thinking about putting together just a little quick tips video showing these cables. They always go on in the same order on pretty much all motherboards. Why this isn't one connector, I don't understand, because for the most part, motherboards will honor that particular pin layout. NZXT cases will come with one connector, and then they give you like a breakout connector just in case you have a weird board. But that should be normal to me, in my opinion. That should just be normal. And then if I want to make this one hidden, we'll run it in the back too. Ooh, that didn't sound good. Let's go back here. And then where do I bring it in? I got to bring it in the same hole. So this is an interesting cable management technique. What I'm going to do is I'm going to loop the cable through the same hole, and that way I can wire tie or nylon zip tie this extra slack cable and hide it so that it'll look better from the plastic panel. And I want to use the USB port closest to the edge of the case. And the reason I'm doing that is so that it just looks better. It's purely aesthetics. I could use this one or the one next to it. It's pretty unusual that we got two. This says USB card reader. So apparently the card reader, as I suspected, it's its own USB port. It's not coming off the USB 3. So that USB 3 has actually got that connector that it's plugged into, provides two USB ports, but they're only giving us one. So where's the other one go? You got to buy a more expensive case if you want the other one. If you're wondering why there's price differences, there's a reason. Metal thickness, the number of screws and mounting positions, like if you wanted more than two mechanical drives in this, too bad. How much you can use the case, what good the case is very much related to how much you're spending on the case. Generally speaking, I realize I'm referring that you're paying MSRP and you're buying something new. Obviously, if you're buying refurbished, if you're buying something used or on sale, then that's sort of an exception. Sometimes you can pick up a really good quality case at the same price as a cheap case under those scenarios. So when I make statements like that, I assume everybody understands what I mean. And clearly, because I've been on the internet as long as I have, I'm starting to assume people don't know what I mean and they're looking for something to correct me about. Because, it's the internet. This front SATA cable for the LED, I'm going to run that right straight down the front of the case and into the bay area of where the, I'm going to try to, where the hard drive cage is. It's not going to let me. So what I'll do is I'll just push it out the back. Again, if I run it through the hard drive cage, it may interfere with the ability of installing drives. So what I'll do is I'll just run it around. And this is a very unusual way to build a computer. For me, it is. Because we've already got the board prepped. I already know it's got the latest BIOS. Windows 10 is already installed and activated. All the drivers are put in. Everything's good to go. Usually one of the first things I start with is the power supply. And as you can see, we're just now going to install the power supply. We've already done even our front cable management. All our umbilicals are done. Once this has power, we can turn it on. And then it's cable management and being shipped out the door. Much faster, much faster way of doing things. Now, granted, the amount of time it's taken me off camera is also, it's still time, but because I don't have the distractions, I'm getting the work done faster. A few other contributions have come in. Let's see. Michael Harrico contributes $7. He says, good evening again, Chat and Carey. Thanks for all your info and great builds as always. And that's Mike. Hey, thanks, Mike. He's joining us from Lakewood, Ohio. Jason C. contributes $5 Australian. He says, maybe I'm too sensitive, but I can tell there might be some of varicose veins on your arm. I knew there was going to be a squirrel. No, those are not varicose veins. One of the things that I have been, if you ever see people that work out or they exercise a lot, their veins tend to pop or bulge. I've always had good veins. When I say good veins, I mean like when it's time to draw blood, where a nurse or a doctor are going to find a vein to insert a needle for an IV or whatever they're doing, they like arms like mine. They're not varicose. They're, I'll just show you. Some people think it's disgusting and some people think it's sexy. I think it's sexy, but then, they're my arms. But the reason I have that attitude is I used to work out a lot. And when I would work out, and especially as you're building up a sweat, putting a lot of effort into it, those veins, they'll stand out more. And of course, depending on the position of my arm, if I'm leaning on something, and they're not really in full form today. And even through my hands, you can see I can even move my vein. I can move it. You can actually physically see it moving, and then I can move my arm, move my hand and push it back. It's kind of disgusting. I think it's genetic, but those aren't varicose. In other words, varicose veins will look almost like somebody took a pen and drew like in blue ink. That's not what this is. And if you see me really, like if I'm really working, if I'm really drawing a sweat, yeah, they'll really start to be lumpy across my hand, especially right in through here. But no, I like those. Varicose veins I don't like, but veins that kind of stick out like that, that was always kind of a sign when you were at the gym that you were working. You know, when I walked into the gym, my arms looked like everybody else's, but when I walked out of the gym, that's when the veins were like, you know, pulsing. So I've always attributed that to health. Okay, can I put the squirrel away? Are we done with that? He was talking about building a computer, and he went on to talk about veins. It was a very strange transition there. Thank you for the contribution, and I guess thanks for noticing. Now, I think I've caught up with all the contributions. Let me go back to the build, which is putting the power supply in. This is the returned power supply from Thermaltake, which you can see is a brand new unit. You may not be aware, but you probably are. People don't fix things anymore. For the most part, a $33 power supply, they're not going to spend any money to pay somebody to diagnose and repair a $33 power supply. Furthermore, that's the sale price. That's not the manufacturing price. That doesn't include the box, the packaging. It doesn't include the distribution. It doesn't, right? So that if they sold it at $33 and made a profit, the power supply that's in this box is probably half the cost when you add the box and the cost of distribution. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but it sounds like it's about a $15 power supply. So what this company and many other companies will do is they'll take your bad power supply and they'll just put it through a simple test. Nothing time consuming, nothing complicated, nothing that requires a college education. Does it work? Yes or no? Based on that, you'll get a new power supply or you'll get the same one sent back to you. The ones that are determined to be bad are often sold to a recycler or a refurbisher. And they may ship those off to a developing nation to get cheap labor, gives job opportunities to people, improves their skill set, enables them to have a job they normally wouldn't have available, have it fixed in a way that's not cost prohibitive, and then turn around and ship it back and sell it again, refurbished at a cheaper price than it sold. Otherwise, why would anybody buy it? So the economics behind that are quite complex. Other times, some manufacturers simply destroy the product. But I think in most cases, it's sort of like using the whole buffalo, right? If you're a meat processing plant and you've got a bunch of this cow left over, like the head and the brains and the foot, the hooves, that stuff you aren't going to sell to the grocery store, but you can put it in dog food or you could sell it so that you're returning as much profit as possible from your investment. And at the same time, I think you're respecting nature more by not throwing anything away in that particular example. And being in business is all about staying in business, which means drawing a profit. And you're going to have some bad product. And if you continue to have bad product, you're probably not going to have a business very long because the cost of Thermaltake to replace this is, I'm sure, greater than the amount of profit they made selling it to me to begin with. So I don't think $33 was the manufacturer's suggested retail price. I could be wrong. But a 500 watt power supply with an 80 plus efficiency rating for $33, I don't even know how that's possible, honestly. If it didn't have the 80 plus rating, and I could say, okay, it's something cheap from a developing nation, but this seems to be better than that. And with a 5-year warranty, What does that cost per year? $6 a year? So there's our documentation, our power cable. Do you know how much this power cable is? Go on Amazon and price how much a power cable is. Then subtract it out of the price of this power supply. So now it's like a $25 power supply. You know how much it costs to ship this power supply? I just shipped it, cost me $12 and change. So for $12 to ship the power supply back, plus the cable, now how much is the power supply worth? Then there's the cost of the box. And they've included screws and zip ties. There's a cost to that. And there's a little silica gel packet in here, and there's a cost to that. Now this power supply, suddenly, like if it was a good deal before, you're like, holy smokes. So it's starting to sound better and better. It's a pretty basic power supply. Again, nothing innovative here. It's a standard power supply. It's got a Thermaltake is a well-respected name in the industry, although I don't typically use their components, more for design reasons. I have some Thermaltake power supplies. I've got at least 2 that I've had that ran for over 10 years, and I ended up giving them away. So it's not like Thermaltake is known for making bad power supplies. I don't want to imply that. What I do want to imply is I don't think it's a coincidence that the price and the failure rate, I think I guess all I'm saying is I think that's related. I don't want to use $33 power supplies in my builds. And that leads us, there he is. That leads us to value. A lot of people, they want the cheapest price. That's all they focus on. Price, 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 price. And they have no idea, in my opinion, of value. I would not install a $33 power supply in a high-end computer build with, let's say, an i9 or a Ryzen 9 processor, or even a 7. And if you said to me, but Carey, this is the exact same power supply as the other one that's $100. If we take it apart and we look at it, let's just make this up. I'm not saying this actually exists, but I'm saying if this actually existed, where there were 2 power supplies and all they did is rebrand one with a different sticker, and it sold for $33, I would not buy that one. I want the expensive one or the one that is moderately priced to match the system for peace of mind. And this is the danger you run into when you do things for free for people, is they devalue it because it's free. The more expensive something is, the more it's treasured to have for most people. Well, I can go and spend $180 on a pair of Oakley sunglasses. My father would say, I buy a pair of $5 sunglasses at the drugstore. I don't see why anybody would spend that kind of money. But his lens quality isn't anywhere near mine. His warranty isn't anywhere near mine. The build quality isn't anywhere near mine. And so my father doesn't see the value in that. He thinks it's preposterous to spend that kind of money. There's Levi's you can buy with tears in the jeans. They sell for upwards of $300 a pair. My dad says, why would somebody wear jeans with a hole in them? You should, have that stitched up. Like, no, Dad, they were made, they didn't put the hole in them. They're too lazy they paid somebody else to artificially create the hole to make it look like they actually worked and created the hole in the jeans. It's become a fashion statement, and people pay more money to have that look versus somebody who just buys a pair of Levi's and puts holes in them because, they earned them. So I don't try too hard to convince people of value, whether it's seeing value of YouTube videos, seeing value of certain foods, seeing value of anything, right? Your value system is yours and my value system is mine. And ideally, if you're my customer, I will have done my job to make sure that you know what you're getting is not really comparable to what you can buy at the store. In the sense that there's a lot more personal care taken in the builds that I do. And that if you have any problems, you're going to talk to the person who built it. How many places do that? Now, some customers will say, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. And some customers will say, so what? Okay, well, those customers who say, so what? They can go to Best Buy or Costco and buy a computer. I don't care. I would rather they did than have them as my customer. But when you do something for free, people are more likely going to grab it. They're going to take it. And some of those people are going to complain about it. But if you charged everybody for that same thing you gave away for free, you will have a portion of people that said you're charging too little, you should be charging more. You'll have a portion of people who perhaps may think they were ripped off, and you can perhaps offer them a refund if they feel that way, because trust me, it's cheaper in the long run. Get rid of those people as quickly as you can. So at least the worst they can say about you is you had a product they didn't like, but at least you refunded their money. I can live with that. Or you have other people that say, well, it must be nice to have that kind of money to afford such nice things. Even if it's the same exact thing, the price adjusts the perception of the person receiving it. It's called perceived value. It's a pretty interesting psychological marketing tactic. And it's how Gucci and Coach and Prada and Ray-Ban and Bentley and Rolls-Royce and Rolex, it's how you become, like when you can master this, it's how you can become a luxury brand. I mean, they've got luxury branded COVID face masks. Are you kidding me? You know, it's crazy. So the reason I tell this to you is so you can be a smarter consumer, but also so you can understand the value of free. Just because something is free doesn't mean it's worthless. And just because something costs you money doesn't mean it has value. At the end of the day, you're going to attribute value to things. And where I'm going with this little squirrel is just driving home the point that when I am selling a computer to a customer, I'm also selling an image. And that image that I am trying to convey is one of quality, not one of cheapness, and not one of extravagance. I'm a quality computer builder. I don't build bottom of the barrel crap for my customers. And in general, and with few exceptions, I don't build over the top, custom liquid cooled, custom RGB, nonsense showcase pieces that are a pain in the butt to work on and are highly impractical, extremely heavy, difficult to work on, and tend to be a maintenance nightmare. I'm kind of right in that middle, the higher end of the middle, right? So like a cheap computer for me, if you said, Carey, what's the cheapest computer I can buy from you? In other words, something I'm going to build and warranty, it's about $700 to $800 plus shipping. And if you said, well, what's the difference between that and say something decent? Another $200. And what's the difference between that and something amazing? Maybe $200 to $1,500 more, depending on how much storage, how much RAM, and of course the video card, which can make a big difference. I'm not the guy you call to say, let me pull all these random money out of my pocket and we'll see how much I have and count the change. Tell me what you can build me for that. I'm not that guy, because I don't want you to assert that the crap that I just built with that little tiny bit of money is in any way representative of my standards. And so I refuse to do it, because that's the kind of stuff that can put you out of business. Wow, what a crappy computer. Who built that? Oh, Carey Holzman built that. Oh my gosh, I'd never have that guy build anything for me. Look at it. They don't explain the part, well, he was doing me a favor. He built this with $2.42, right? That part is always left out. Because if you knew the budget, you'd say, oh my gosh, that's amazing he did that. But people don't do that. And since they don't do that, if I let people do that to me, I will allow people to effectively put me right out of business by being too accommodating. So I have a minimum standard. You know, it's no different than going into a car dealership and wanting to buy a car that's out of your budget. If it's out of your budget, you can't afford it. So that's sort of the way I portray it, but it's not excessive. You know, what I charge for computers is very low in the industry. It's very low. And I'm trying to make it up in quantity and in content. That's where I'm generating my revenue. The computers themselves, in some cases, I lose money on the builds. But I'm okay with that if that means I have a customer for life or a customer that's going to refer me to more customers. That's just good business. I just can't lose money on every one of them because obviously that's not sustainable. The power supply came with its own screws, which are in this bag with the, sorry, put the squirrel away. Squirrel moment's over. In the bag with the nylon zip ties. Hopefully this one from Thermaltake is going to work. Once we hook this up and plug it in, we should be able to turn this thing on. So apart from all my philosophizing, it's a really easy build. We want the fan to face down, and there is a small filter. This filter does not seem to come off. I guess you... How does that come off? No idea. There's a filter down there. It just occurred to me there's another great example of this. There's a famous wine, very inexpensive wine in the United States, and we refer to it as $2 Chuck. $2 Chuck is a cheap way to get drunk. Imagine you've gotten married and you're going to save a bottle of wine to open on your 10-year anniversary. What are the odds you're going to put a bottle of $2 Chuck in your wine cellar for a special occasion? But I've had wine that's very expensive, that tastes much, much worse, and paid a lot more money for it. I'm just saying, food for thought, wine for thought. Boy, there's no guides on this case to help align this power supply. There's literally nothing there. I'm a little spoiled with the cases I normally use in that there's usually some rubber feet for the power supply to sit on. Sometimes there's like a metal strap that sits below the power supply sits below it, and things that help you keep the power supply aligned. And those little touches may be something a lot of casual builders wouldn't even know the difference of. But once you get used to having them, it kind of feels a little like the old days, you know, back when those types of cases simply weren't affordable. These days, even nice cases like the 200R is only, what I say, $69? Versus, what do you think this case was, 30 or 40? It's maybe twice the price, but it's twice the case, quite literally. You probably, if we put it on a scale, I bet you're getting twice the case. I don't know, I'm guessing though. So here's a problem I can already see. If I run this power cable up here, I'm gonna have a hard time putting this cover on. So what I'm gonna have to do is run it, I guess, this way. And that, so we have this little indent. Yeah, that's what we're going to have to do, just to avoid having some difficulties when it's time to put that rear cover back on. Wow, the power connector's way up at the top, so I think if we have enough slack, let's see, this could be interesting. This could be interesting or very boring. Let's find out. if we go like that, if we go all the way up to the top, do I have enough slack? I think it'll just fit. It's almost like it was made to go there. It is exactly the right amount of length. I love that because that means the cable management's going to be a lot easier. Oh, maybe not. No, it's like an inch too short. So that's not going to work because with this cable here, it's going to make it very difficult for the side panel to go on. It's going to hit this motherboard tray. The cable needs to be in this area all the way to this hole. So I'll do it the original way I was going to do it. And we can come at it from the bottom, but that's going to look ugly. So the least ugly, that's what I have to pick. What's the least ugly? No matter which way I do it, it's going to be ugly. But this one looks to be the least ugly. They don't give us any hole for this top CPU power connector like we have in the 200R, and they don't give us any cable management to run that line like other cases. I keep saying the 200R, but I mean literally any other major manufacturer has consideration for that. You know, I might have spoken too soon. Maybe there is a slot there. Let's see if this will work. Now this cable isn't as thick, no cables are as thick as that main motherboard power cable. But it looks like they have a cutout here, but I don't think it's going to fit. Yeah, it ain't happening. It's like they kind of thought about it, but they didn't follow that thought through. There's no way. It's just not going to work. Now it's stuck. I suppose if I took the motherboard out, I could get that in there. Motherboard would have to come out for that to fit. That sucks. That really sucks. Because that means if I do it that way, it's going to look a lot better. But if this power supply is bad and I have to take it back out, then I have to take the board back out just to remove this cable. So for maintenance and support, this is a horrible case. Horrible from that perspective. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do just to get me by for right now. I don't have a lot of confidence in this power supply. So I'm going to bring this cable in. I'm trying to see. That won't fit through that hole. Can I get it through that? Can't get it through that one either. Ironically, the power supply would have to come out for me to fit it through the hole above the power supply. This hole here with his other cables also is too small. Wow, this is just bad in all different kinds of ways. So this is about the closest where I'm going to get it. And if it works well, I'll consider pulling the board just to reattach it before I ship it to Planet Cryos. But I would like to move the video along and turn this thing on and make sure that it works. Then the last cable we have here to hook up is this front LED light, which is this SATA power cable right here. And we can just pick any SATA power cable. It only goes on one way. And these are super easy to break, so make sure you take a good look at where the little notch is so that it aligns. This doesn't want to go on at all. There it goes. Okay, and so everything else, normally I would just tie these up and stick them down here, but the hard drive cage is in the way. So I'll have to figure out a way to get them in this little gap here. I'll cram all the cables in that little gap. When we get to that point later off camera, and I'm alone and I can swear a lot more, let's just make sure everything works. And then I'll make it look pretty, or as pretty as I can make it look later maybe later tonight. So we're ready to test fire this bad boy. Let's give it some power, make sure the power supply is in the off position. We need to give it video. We're running on onboard video that's built into the CPU. Thank goodness we don't have to buy a graphics card in this. Oh, look what I've done. These grounding straps, and again, this will happen on cheap motherboards. I'm going to have to take the board out anyway because that right there is blocking the port. This little metal square is supposed to be folded up, but it bent down. I was putting the board in. Now, some of you may get a pair of pliers or something and force it, but it's going to bend the metal and it looks terrible, and it's not the way a professional would do it. So I'm going to have to take the board out anyway. So what I'll probably do, if everything's working okay, is I will pull this power cable and remove the board so I can run the power cable behind the board. And then when I put the board back in, I'll make sure to watch for that. But I don't want to do any of that if this new power supply that Thermaltake sent me is as bad as the first one. So, you know, when you're buying a less expensive case, this is some of the headache you deal with. This is the amount of having to take things apart. Like this part here, that's my fault. That has to do with the motherboard manufacturer choosing this IO shield design, which would require the board to come out anyway. But the cable management issues on a case that has a clear plastic window doesn't make sense. Why would you give me a clear plastic window and then not give me the ability to hide the ugly cables? Wouldn't it have been like, if this panel here wasn't clear plastic, if this was a solid, opaque, non-see-through panel, then the rest of the design makes sense. Those two things don't go together, so it baffles me. I need a keyboard and a mouse and we can turn it on. Here's my keyboard, my mouse. I keep the dongle in the mouse so I don't have to look for it. They're tiny. And I'm going to use one of these top USB ports up here. There we go. Okay, folks, this is it. And thank you to Planet Cryos, who just contributed $10 because Carey and chat been busy tonight, but just dropping in to say hi again and show support. Well, thank you. Well, you can see your computer here being built, and I'm going to hit the power button. But first, let me turn on that input, and let's put me in a corner. And the input is really small, so let's make that big. And power. It's lighting up. Let me step around and let me see what's going on with the fans. Rear case fan is turning, CPU fan is turning. There is no front fan and we don't need one on this build. RGB is lit up in the front. Power light is on, hard drive LED is blinking. Everything looks like it's supposed to look. It's nice and quiet. The benefit of a new power supply and a new CPU is those fans have not, the bearings are all fresh, so that you're not going to have any noise. And then with regards to the system specification, let's take a look at the system properties and see what this is. Intel Core i5 9400 running at 2.9 gigahertz. It has 16 gigs of RAM. 15.9 is usable, meaning 100 megs of RAM is being used to power our graphics. We're running Windows 10 Pro version 20H2, which should be activated. You have to go up here and type in activation or see if Windows is activated. It'll tell you. Windows 10 Pro, Windows is activated, so that's perfect. We want to take a look at the solid state storage. Double click on this PC. You see the C drive. Right click, go to properties, and there we can see we're utilizing about 36 gigs. That's just Windows, folks. That's a clean install of Windows 10 and nothing else, apart from some drivers. And 431 gigs available. And if we want to check the performance, remember this is not a really fast NVMe drive, which is why it goes to the giveaway. It doesn't live up to my standard in either speed or capacity. Let's run the Crystal Disk Mark bench on it and see what it says. And in the meantime, if you have questions for me, I'm here looking at the chat room now. Jason Wyrick says that's a fast boot. Hey, I'm telling you, these i5s, like the 900 or the 9000 series i5s, if you just go back a few years at the i7s, they're smoking some of these older i7s in gigahertz, frequency, in core count. I wouldn't buy an i3 or a Ryzen 3, but the 5s are definitely worth consideration in my opinion. Ben says you got to connect to a network. I don't want to connect it to the network. I knowingly and willfully did not plug in the network. That was not a mistake. We have no reason to get on a network right now. He says he's got the same gigabyte motherboard and the BIOS version is F14D. We can check the BIOS version. I can assure you I've already made sure I've got the latest, but I don't remember. I've got so many systems I'm working on, I can't remember. But we can run CPU-Z and we can take a look at those specs. Carey, is there a way to upgrade to Windows 10 Pro from Windows 10 Home? Yeah, you just give Microsoft some money. You don't even have to reinstall Windows. Just type that into Google search, upgrade Home to Pro, and it'll walk you through that process. It's all built into Windows to take your money, for sure. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Most people only need Windows 10 Home unless you're connecting to a server or you need BitLocker. Other than that, I don't see why you would want Windows 10 Pro. I get Windows 10 Pro on all the machines because I'm a system builder and I don't deal with, excuse me, wow, Gatorade burps. I'm getting one copy of, or one license, not one copy, one license of Windows for each customer. They all get the same Windows version. I'm not keeping an inventory of different Windows versions. It's just Windows 10 Pro at this one price, and that's what everybody pays. I'm not saying, well, you could save some money and go to Windows 10 Home. I used to do that with Windows 7, and I had customers reaching out asking me, what's it going to take to go to Windows Pro, because their network needs changed. In other words, they were like a small office, and then they got a server and found out the 8 computers in the office all had to be upgraded to the Pro version, or you couldn't get on the server. And it wasn't the price of the software it was the problem, it was the labor. Like when I told the customers what it was going to cost to redo all of those computers, they were pretty upset that I didn't warn them sufficiently during the sale of what could happen, when in fact I did warn them and they just didn't listen. So now everybody gets Pro for all of those reasons. Would you do a 40-year comparison of computers? I don't see any point in that. I think we're all pretty much on board with what we had, and there's enough videos, enough retro videos looking at older hardware that's already been done. If I ever wanted to pull my old Atari 400 out and hook it up to a TV, I wouldn't be bothered because somebody's already done that. Several people have, and then recorded it on YouTube. So I can see all my old favorite games, see the old operating system, see the old disk drive and tape drive and modem. It's all out there to be seen. I don't need to redo, that's already been done. Joe Bush contributes $4.99. He says, great stuff as always, Carey. Thank you, Joe. Thank you as always. Dennis says Windows 10 Pro comes with Hyper-V. Yeah, and you can now explain to 99% of our audience what Hyper-V is and why they'd want to use it, and then further make them feel stupid. I don't see any point in bringing that level of discussion up in a channel like mine, which is intended to encourage regular computer users to take more control over their own computers, not to intimidate them with complicated technical stuff that, even if they knew how to do it, probably provides them no benefit other than the experience. Hyper-V, for the people who need to know it, already know that. I don't have to tell them. And for the rest of us, it doesn't apply to us. It doesn't matter. Do you use Cinebench R20 to do your benchmarks? I think I have R15. I didn't want to go to R20 because there was some reason. And of course, I've already established all the benchmarks in R15. So the minute you switch the benchmark, all your previous benchmarks get thrown away. So you can't use them for comparison anymore. But yeah, I usually use R15. Jason Wyrick says, Pro gives the sandbox and Hyper-V. Again, more technical jargon for nerdy people. If you're a regular computer user, none of that really applies to you. It's a way of using your computer in a more complex way that is typically used in business environments or by business folks to set up computers for non-technical people to make it harder for them to screw up. But if you already know how to do all that, then you wouldn't need that with regards to the sandboxing. With regards to virtualization, again, that's typically utilized more on higher end machines because it requires more resources. So on a budget build or something like that, it doesn't make any sense. But again, I put Windows 10 Pro on universally. But there are differences, and those differences are usually, and I guess this is the point I was trying to make, the people who know what the differences are the people who have Windows 10 Pro. The people who have to ask what's the difference don't need it. Joel Oliver says, well, Linux provides Hyper-V out of the box. Yes, we all know Linux is superior, and we should all pray to Linus Torvalds, and we should just sell all of our belongings and shave our heads and sell flowers at the airport and give the money to Linus Torvalds because Linux is so far superior. I know, it's going to be okay. You know, they make pills now that can help you, right? Oh, good. Cinebench R23 is out. That's just great. And Mortmont says, just use VirtualBox. Well, there you go. There's always third-party alternatives for a lot of, well, I shouldn't say always, but yes. Instead of, yes, you could absolutely do that on Windows 10 Home. Is that a SATA drive? There's no SATA drive in here. That's a Western Digital Black 500 gig NVMe drive. So is there no point in upgrading from Windows 10 Pro from Windows 10 Home? That's what Billy wants to know. Well, Billy, I guess the point I'm trying to make is if you can't tell me why you're doing it, then I think you're answering your own question. I can't answer this question for you. Sometimes I say, if you have a question, please ask me, and people ask me questions only they can answer. If I try that food, am I going to like it? I don't know. If I wear these shoes, are they going to look good on me? I don't know. So I am encouraging questions, but I do a much better job if you're asking questions I can actually answer. Planet Cryos again with the contributions for $20. He says, I want to show more appreciation for selecting me in the pool. This is an honor to say the least. Would it be okay to send a video on a thank you for the PC? Yeah, absolutely. That would be very flattering. I would enjoy that. When you receive the computer, especially if you would, put yourself on camera next to it, show people, that would mean a lot to me. I'd appreciate that. But, obviously you don't have to, but if you did, I'd appreciate it. Now, I understand there's some things in life where you want to be prepared, right? So you're going to ask a lot of questions. Like, let's say, for example, you're going to go skydiving and okay, so when the altimeter reaches this altitude, I pull this cord and not this cord. Those are questions you want to make sure you know before you jump out of the plane. But some questions, people say, for example, what would happen if I put a different manufacturer of RAM in my system? I don't know. Why don't you try it and find out? Like, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't know your system, and I don't know you, and I don't know anything about your RAM or the other RAM. It might work, it might not. So plug it in and let me know. I'd be kind of curious how it works out for you. But I need to know, what did you have? Give me the model number and manufacturer. And then what did you add? Give me the model number and manufacturer. And then tell me, did it work or it didn't? If it didn't work, take it out. So some things you just have to try and see. So if I can be that little push for you to just do it, then the answer you're going to get is going to be far more accurate than anything anybody can tell you. Your experience supersedes all other information. So if you're curious about something like that, there's no harm in trying unless you break something in the process, but I can't predict that you would do that if you're mishandling the parts. I'm assuming you watch my videos and you know how to install the parts and what to expect. But if you've never done it before, you should hopefully get guidance from somebody you know that can show you firsthand or supervise you, or be extra careful and pay very close attention and maybe watch how other people do it until you feel like you've done it yourself so that you can then take that on. Or don't, and then potentially break the socket or the RAM because you ham-fisted it. Either way, it works out fine for me. In either way, you're going to learn. But the lesson you learn from experience will stay with you far longer than anything I tell you or anybody else. So there's our final crystal disk mark numbers on the Western Digital drive. So as you can see, it's not a screaming demon by any means, but it's a fairly fast and respectable computer. And again, if you were to just go to Best Buy and buy a computer off the shelf for under $800 or under $700, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find something equivalent to this at that price point. Yeah, maybe 700 would be about equal, but anything under that, it'd probably be suffering in storage, performance, the amount of RAM, and certainly this system is all modular, whereas a lot of those pre-built systems are not modular. And what that means is this can be upgraded and repaired and have every single part replaced with industry standard parts from a number of different competitors. When it's pre-built and they're proprietary parts, you're just stuck with that manufacturer and their price is too bad, so sad. So it limits your upgradability, your repairability, and ultimately the overall quality of investment that you made when you purchased it. Doozle says an i3-10100K is 2% overall better than the i5-9400F, and it's 40% cheaper. Well, there's more to it than that, though. You see, you're oversimplifying. You're making it out as though you can get a compatible motherboard for that 10100 for the same price when the 10 series chips are a different socket, right? You can't use the same motherboard. This is a socket 1151. The 10th gen is a socket 1200. So where you're saving money on your processor, you'll be spending more on your motherboard. And then you can counter that and you could say, yes, but my motherboard is more upgradable to future technology, so it's worth paying more for. This is a pointless discussion to have because I am not your personal technician. I am not here to tell you, specifically you, what's good for you. I don't know you. So you don't need to convince me of where you see value. I'm not here to try to change your value perception. You may be completely misunderstanding the point of my videos. The point of my videos is to share with you my value of perception of value to my customers. If you're not my customer, then your opinion is irrelevant to me and my advice is irrelevant to you, because I'm not being held accountable or responsible to meeting your needs under a legal contractual arrangement in exchange for money. So if you have all the answers, if you already know what processor you like better, if you already have all that, I don't know why you're here. If you just want to argue with people, it's a weird way to make friends. But this idea that all you have to do is change one part and suddenly it's a better value is preposterous in its nature, because the motherboard is most certainly going to cost more money. So whatever you saved on your CPU, you will have, same with AMD. Oh, the AMD is cheaper. Yeah, but the motherboards cost more and the RAM costs more. And oh, by the way, you got to buy a graphics card too on most of those AMD chips. So that's, at the end of the day, you're spending more money. So yeah, the chip itself, yeah, it's cheaper. But then everything, if the whole computer was just the chip, it's sort of like determining how good a car is based on its tires. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you take the tires and I'll take the car, and let's see which one of us goes faster. But I'm not here to discourage, right? Like if you want to build a 10100, you build it. And if you want to be brave enough to put yourself on camera so you can suffer criticisms from strangers online, I say, go for it, man. You should totally do that. In fact, if you do, post a link to it here so we can all watch it. I think it takes a lot more guts to do that than to have an opinion. The difference between you and me is people pay me for my opinion. But as I started off saying, because I give it away for free, there's going to be people who criticize it. Versus the people who pay me for it who say thank you. So that's the difference between you behaving that way and a customer. And it's all about perceived value. So whether we're talking about perceived value of the CPU, perceived value of the information I'm providing you, the great thing is you have a freedom of choice that if you don't like what you're listening, you can turn it off. If you don't like what anybody is saying, then you can say it yourself on your own YouTube channel. And then you can find yourself on the opposite end of the stick, because no matter what you say and no matter what your opinion is, you're wrong. It doesn't even matter. If I gave away $100 bills, there would be some people online telling me I am doing it wrong. So, welcome to the internet. But no, you can't just change out the CPU and say it's a better value with no thought to the motherboard. That's so thoughtless. Do I personally prefer Intel or AMD? I personally currently prefer Intel. I used to prefer AMD. The AMD Athlon XP series were the primary bulk of my sales for many, many years. And then when the Core Duo CPU was released, Intel suddenly became the more value proposition. And AMD just has not caught up with them yet in regards to the driver updates and the maturity of the chip. The AMD systems require a lot more time. And I'm in business, time is money, So if I can build an Intel system and have it be rock solid, stable, and automatically update itself, that's just good business sense. If I'm a hobbyist, I just have the one computer, buy what you want to buy. It's enjoyable if you're going to spend 10 hours configuring it and I'm going to spend an hour configuring an Intel. I'm configuring 10 of those in the time it takes you to configure one. But we're both happy doing what we love to do. And I'm sustaining a business and you're sustaining a hobby. There's no right or wrong here. And you might ask me if I prefer steak or chicken. It doesn't make one superior to the other. It's my personal preference for my personal reasons. It's not for you to qualify it, to agree with it, to disagree with it. It's not really anything other than just information, and it should bear no weight on you should feel confident enough in your own decision-making process as to not seek out approval from others. I'm not looking for your approval. And I would hope you're not looking for mine. I will give you my encouragement and I will give you my approval far more often than I will disapprove or criticize you. I generally will return what is given. So if somebody's being particularly nasty or corrective to me, then I return that like a mirror back to that individual. And if someone's being very kind and generous, I return that back to the individual. Think of me as a mirror. I'm a reflection of your behavior. If your behavior online is bullish, you will find me to be a bullish person. If your behavior online is generous and kind, then you will find me to be generous and kind. I am the prime example of you get what you give. So if you feel as though I'm an arrogant person, if you feel negative things towards me, that's a reflection of you. If you think I'm a good guy, I've got morals and ethics and a higher ground and a good business sense, and I make my videos for the right reason and I don't take any crap from people, and you appreciate that, then that's also a reflection of you. I have no control over your perceptions, but I will react to them accordingly. It's your choice. And why anybody would choose the negative over the positive when they both take the same amount of energy and effort is a puzzle I will never understand to the day I die. So going back to the system here, I don't know. I mean, we could run some other benchmarks. I don't think running Prime 95 on it with a stock cooler is a fair thing. I don't think it's really designed for that usage. I don't know, Planet Cryos, is there anything you want me to check on it while we're here? If you're in the chat. I see Selden Bell is in the chat. See, Selden created the spinning logo that you see on the water cooler, on the NZXT Z63 liquid cooler. It's got a little LCD screen that you can put an animated GIF on. And Selden created that and sent it to me, and it's drawn a lot of attention. I actually said to Selden, this is neat. It would be great if it could do more. But it turns out less is more, because more people have commented about that than pretty much anything else. So yeah, Selden kind of hit it out of the park with that first rendition. And my attempting to make it fancier and have it do more stuff has only made it worse. So I've returned it back to the original design, and it seems to draw a lot of attention, which is, it's a special machine. This is my rig. This was my birthday build. This was a $4,300 computer. And I had it sitting for many months because I didn't have time to finish it. Then when I got over here to Studio B, sorry, I guess this is a squirrel. I said, I need a streaming computer. And I just had that little mini end case in it. I started to outgrow it relatively quickly. So I said, well, I got to buckle down and get this done. And yeah, I'm very happy with it. In fact, the back isn't even on it yet. You can't see the back of it. All the cables are sticking out. I have to do the cable management on this when I have time, but you can't see it. So as far as you're concerned, it's perfect. Yeah, so you'll see Selden Bell is in the chat there now. You can let him know. I'm sure he appreciates the kind words. Can you buy a cooler to put animated GIFs on it? Well, that's what that is. That's an all-in-one liquid cooler from NZXT, and you can put an animated GIF up to 25 megabytes in size on its little LCD screen in there. Yeah. I don't see any. I don't know if I know Planet Cryo City was coming and going, so I don't know if he has left or if he's in there right now. But if he is, and there's anything you want me to run on here, essentially we've confirmed everything is working. The new power supply that was sent from Thermaltake works like it's supposed to. Thank goodness, because I'd have things to say if the replacement was bad. And then some cable management. I'll take the board out to reroute the CPU power cable and to fix that IO shield issue. Two birds with one stone. Now I have two reasons to take the motherboard out. That makes that an easier pill to swallow. And then I just realized here on the back of the motherboard tray, there are a couple of bent tabs to hold it, a single 2.5-inch solid state drive. I didn't even realize it was there. A very cheap case design. I just cut a piece of metal and bend it outwards and put a hole through it, and that'll be the hole for the screw for the solid state drive. Okay, yeah, I'll save people some money. And they're bent, they're all bent up because, it's really thin metal. I mean, it's efficient, but it's not a good design. If the material quality was better, that would have made more sense. But the material is very, very flexible. So, and room for just one solid state drive. Oh no, it looks like you could put a second one back here. So it looks like you could mount two solid state 2.5-inch drives in the back. That makes sense. Okay, that's fair. And then two 3.5-inch mechanical drives as well. And if you really wanted to, you could put two 2.5-inch drives in the 3.5-inch drive sleds. I don't know why anybody would do that, but you could. So this will hold a total of 4 drives, as long as only 2 of them are 3.5 inches. It's the NZXT Z63, and all the Z series have the screen. Yes, I think you're right, Tim. There's a Z73 that's bigger. The Z63, I think, is a 280. Is it a 280 millimeter radiator? But yeah, I think you're right. If the NZXT cooler starts with the letter Z. Peter Laycock, there's my buddy. Joining us from Scotland, contributes 50 pounds as always. Peter, thank you so much. Peter says, good morning, Carey and everyone in the chat from a cold Bunny, Scotland. Cold. Do you know how hot it was today? The air conditioner's been clicking on and off. Have you guys been hearing it? What's the temperature outside right now? It's 9 o'clock at night here in Phoenix, and it says it's 88 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, no, it says 79. 79 degrees Fahrenheit is too hot. That would be a great temperature at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, not at 9 o'clock at night. 100-degree days are probably just a week away. And then 110, 115. I would love to be in cold Bunny, Scotland right now. Tweak says, I want to upgrade to a 10700K from a 2700X. Might want to do it this summer. So you want to go from an AMD to an Intel. How come? A lot of people think if I prefer Intel over AMD, I'm some kind of a sellout. Like it's beyond their ability or their willingness to accept the business reasons because they just don't have a mind for business, or they just don't have a mind for scale. The fact that people feel so attached to a faceless corporation is very strange for a Generation Xer like myself. We wouldn't pay money to buy a branded t-shirt. A branded t-shirt was something they gave away. If you saw, in the 1980s, if you saw somebody walking around with a shirt that said Nike, they were given that shirt by Nike. It wasn't that you went to the store and you were buying shirts that advertised products. Those shirts were given away for free. So if you grew up with that, and now you see kids today buying shirts to advertise brands, and they're paying money to advertise a brand, you can imagine how a Gen Xer like myself feels about that. So I have no emotional relationship to Intel or AMD. I have an emotional relationship to staying in business and to offering my customers the most reliable, the fastest, the quietest computers available for the money, hand-built. And the AMD systems are still requiring too much support from me. And I'm afraid that's having a negative impact on the impression of the quality of my business. But if you want to buy one and build it, I mean, I'm sure it'll be fine. But when you want to buy, say, 100 of them and build 100 of them, or even, let's say, 17 of them, build and buy 17 of them, and let me know when you've had enough. One is not enough. You know, you might enjoy lobster or filet mignon, I don't know, some fancy, expensive dinner. But if I constantly feed it to you over and over and over again to the point where you're not even hungry and the thought of it makes you want to throw up, you'll start to understand how I feel. You can't feel that way because you were hungry and you just ate a steak. Oh, I sure could have another one of those. I know you think that now. But if I keep feeding them to you, you're going to reach a point where you're going to be like, I never want to see another one of those again. I am sick of it. I've had too much. I don't feel well anymore. I went from feeling good, now I feel bad. And I went from wanting it to not wanting it. When you're in business, you don't have a choice. You have to keep marching forward. You have to. You've got to keep the business alive. And if something keeps pulling you backwards, it's preventing you from moving forwards. That means new sales, new customers, new problems to solve. If you're still being pulled back solving old ones and you're losing customer confidence from the people affected by it, you're getting frustrated as the technician. But oh, don't worry, it's saving money. So I really don't care. I just want to stay in business. If AMD can build me a product that works as good as or better than on performance and reliability and the support surroundings that I have with Intel, I've done it before. I've jumped ship from Intel before. As I mentioned, I was all AMD during the Athlon XP era. And then AMD dropped the ball. And people who are sort of fanatical about AMD, get a life. Get a job. Go work for AMD. Seriously, go get a job with AMD. And when they treat you like crap, as all companies typically do, you'll realize that your loyalty is not appreciated by the soulless, faceless corporation. And that's pretty much true of all corporations. But again, I'm a Gen Xer, and Gen Xers generally have an attitude like mine, where these big faceless corporations who care only about profit and not about people are all too common. And to stand up and defend them when you have no relation or financial investment it just goes against my entire upbringing. But whether or not I like something shouldn't matter to you. How I run my business should not matter to you. Unless you're my customer, then it matters. But you need to make your own decisions. Stop blaming other people for decisions you make. And don't blame other people for the decisions they made. It's not your business. Mind your business, I'll mind mine. Show me the respect, I'll show you the respect. You're willing, as far as I'm concerned, pick any parts you want. My only question to you is, if you had to do it all over again, would you have changed anything, and why? I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to say, oh, well, you picked an AMD, so you're just a fanboy. I'll just automatically lump you into a category of troll. But that's what people do to me. Oh, you like Intel, you're an Intel fan. No, I'm a businessman. And if you understand business, you'll understand the business decision. If you don't understand business, then trying to reason with you is an unreasonable thing that I'm attempting. So then I'm the fool making that attempt. On that note, let me get another Gatorade here, because where are we at? 20 after 9. We'll let this go here a few more minutes. If there's any other technical questions I can help you with, I'm certainly glad to do that. I want to get back to the beginning where I talked about kindness, that thumbs up. People, we see a lot of selfishness in today's society. We're not going to change that, you and I, but we don't have to be selfish. Even if people around us, even if the world around us is exhibiting a certain behavior, we don't have to say that's okay. We don't have to stop it. It's not our responsibility. But we also don't have to participate in it. And that's all I'm asking you to do, is instead of doing what other people are doing, do what's right for you. Because all the decisions that you're making every day are adding up to the decisions you're making tomorrow. Everything you do is going to ultimately add up to what you've done. So if you spend a lot of time harassing people, you're just doing this to yourself, because the time that you could be spending building relationships or improving your life, if you've decided that some form of entertainment is your preference through harassment, that's still part of your mathematical equation of your life, of what you will achieve in your life. Every minute can take you closer to your goal or keep you further from it. And if you think your actions of today have no impact on tomorrow, I mean, I guess you're welcome to think that, but I've been around too long to realize that things I've done in the past are what prevented me from achieving what I've achieved today. I could have achieved what you see today 20 years ago. But if I spent too much time entertaining myself, whether that was through harassing other people, trolling, spamming, trying to rip people off, or I don't even know, sleeping in and not wanting to get out of bed and letting the day go by and having nothing done, there's a price. And nobody's going to pay the price but you. And whether or not you acknowledge it doesn't change it. You understand? Like, if you just think, well, that's just the way life is. Well, no, that's the life you chose. You decided that. So that's your bed you're making. It's not mine. And if you are just like clicking thumbs up on random YouTube videos as a random act of kindness, that's helping build somebody else up. It's helping to encourage other people. But if you have to take people down in order for you to lift yourself up, it's just not sustainable. And at the end of as time ticks on, as it does for all of us, eventually you'll realize all your missed opportunities. And the only person you hurt the whole time was you. But, you know, I'm not going to change anybody. I'm not, I don't think there's anybody trolling going, oh, he makes a good point, I'll stop. But the rest of us know, right? So just feel bad for them because they're just not bright enough. They just haven't had enough of, they're living in a virtual world that doesn't matter to them. And just be glad you're not them, and the life that awaits them is it's going to be misery until they wake up and accept reality. Welcome to the internet, you know, what are you going to do? A couple more contributions come in. Let's see, we've got Pratap Gunrig contributes $5, and Blackwatch with another $5 Canadian contribution says, another cool build, thanks. Well, again, this is a very unusual build for me. And, you know, I find myself in this position where I've got these relatively good parts, but they're not good enough for me to sell and have to support. And I don't want to damage my reputation or even risk it. And I just thought, what can I do with these parts that they're really decent without the risk? And then it just kind of occurred to me, you know, let's give back to the people who give, and we'll continue to give as much as I can in the same that I receive. So for the people that are being jerks, you can expect me to be twice as much of a jerk. And for the people who think I'm arrogant, expect me to be twice as arrogant. And for the people who are kind, expect me to be twice as kind. And for the people who are generous, expect me to be twice as generous back. I am a mirror, and I will reflect your behavior. It's just the way I am. And given a choice, which would you prefer? You know, it's a rhetorical question. There's no wrong answer. Either way, it's your decision. I still didn't see anything from Planet Cryos here on the build, if there was anything he wanted me to check. But again, and the system is dead silent. Is it gone to sleep or something? Because I don't hear anything. No, fans are still running. It's just quiet. I wasn't quite sure with that stock fan, you know. I do like on the 10th gen chips from Intel, the stock fans are black now, but they still rotate that logo the wrong direction. I don't know why Intel does that. Or give me the sticker so I can put the sticker on the cooler myself so it can orient it. Or make it rotatable, but that could add to the expense. AMD puts it off to the side, which I don't understand. Intel often tilts it 90 degrees. I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, if they don't know by now, but It's mostly an OCD issue. You know, my logo's on 90 degrees. Oh no. That's what happens when they start building computers with case windows and you can look inside. When we were first building computers, that was never an issue, but it's become one for some people. Mortmont1210 contributes $20. He says, here's $20 for Gatorade. Hey, I appreciate that. This Gatorade's expensive. These little bottles, what do I get, like a 12-pack? How many do I get? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, 12 is $7. So that a 12-pack of Coca-Cola is like $3 on sale. The Coke is 12 ounces, and this is 12 ounces. Not a very good... Not a good move there on the spending, but I've been, whatever reason, my body has just kind of been sick of the Coca-Cola lately. I maybe have one a day in a small can, like an 8-ounce can, and I'm done. I just don't have a taste for it anymore like I used to. But that's after drinking it pretty much every day for 40 years. So it took a long time before I got sick of it. And I'm not completely sick of it. I just don't want it as often. It's probably my body going, hey, you've had enough sugar. You've got 40 years of sugar buildup from that. But thank you. I appreciate it. Christopher G contributes $1.99 and Stealth Mode contributes $5. He says, great PCs for the community giving back. Thank you for all you do, man. Hey, right on. Thank you for your support, all your contributions. And I know you've been in the chat room for a long time. Stealth Mode. How long have you been watching the channel? In fact, those of you in the chat, if you want to shout out, how long have you been watching, or what's the when did you start watching me, I guess? You know, when was the first time you saw a video from me? And Christopher G contributes again $1.49 with a hot dog emoji. Ghost Shadow says it's $6.50 for a 12-pack of Coke here. Mountain Dew is $8.40 for a 12-pack. Is that because you've got the recycling fee that you get some of the money back when you return the cans or bottles? Because we don't do that in Arizona. You can take your cans to a recycler. They'll give you, whatever it is per pound, but there's no deposits. I was at the grocery store in line, and there's this local dairy that sells milk in a glass bottle. It's a gallon of milk from a local dairy sold in a glass bottle. And those glass bottles add to the production cost. So they want the glass bottles back so they can sanitize them and then reuse them again, and they just put a new lid on it, It's like a plastic lid that gets thrown away. They don't want the lid back, they want the bottle back. So they charge you a $2 deposit. So the milk is like $6 for a gallon of this milk with the deposit. So it's like $4 and then there's a $2 deposit, I think. Sounds right. You take your empty bottle back to the grocery store. It doesn't have to be the same grocery store. Just any grocery store that sells that milk will take back the bottles. And they'll give you the $2 back. Or you can keep the bottle. That's fine, but they would hope that you're not throwing it away, but that you would use it as a vase or something, to keep it out of the landfill. And this kid was behind me, and he's watching me buy the milk, and the cashier said something like the $2 fee or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I know, it's fine. And the kid behind me, I guess, was used to dealing with auto parts. And so on certain auto parts, they charge what's called a core. And the core fee is, let's say you're buying a car battery. They'll say, if you don't have your old battery to give us, we're going to charge you $10 or whatever it is as a core fee. And when you bring your old battery, so let's say you're buying a new battery, you take it home, you put it in your car, you obviously have to take out the old one. Take the old one back to the place of purchase of the new battery, and they'll give you your core fee back, your $10 or whatever the core. It's called a core. So if you don't return the battery, they're keeping the money. If you do return the battery, they'll give you that refund. So the kid doesn't, because he's in Arizona, he's probably been raised in Phoenix his whole life, he doesn't understand what a deposit is on cans and bottles. He's never experienced it before. That's my guess. Because his reaction to me paying this fee was, you got to pay a core on that bottle? And I thought about it for a second, from the minds of babes. It's like, yeah, you know what? It is a core. That's exactly what it is. It's a core. If you're used to auto parts, that's referred to as a core. Come back with the empty bottle, you'll get your core back. You'll get your fee back for the core. It was so amusing to me because I never thought of it that way before. I have used those terms. I always use core when I'm talking about auto parts, and I always use deposits when I talk about refundable bottles and cans. But it's essentially the exact same thing, just different words in different industries. I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought it was interesting that I never connected those two things before that kid said it out loud. Lance says their milk is about $14 a gallon. Where do you live that milk is that expensive? Are you on an island in the Caribbean? Because then I'm not going to feel so sorry. Stealth Mode said he started watching the channel in late 2017, maybe early 2018 through the Tech Peeps. Tech Peeps? What's Tech Peeps? Rick Late says he's been watching me for 6 years, maybe 7 years. Wow, that's cool. Thanks, Rick. GW Eisen says the core fee on a transmission is $600. An engine is $1,200. Bottles and can deposit in Michigan is 10 cents. Yeah, but you're talking about expensive parts, right? So the core is going to be a percentage of the value of the part. How much is a can worth versus how much is a car battery worth versus how much is a car engine or transmission worth? There's a lot of different values there in weight and materials. So I don't know that core or deposit necessarily has to do with the value amount, because there could be deposits adding up to as much as many cores. Just depends on the part. Robert Klein says, Carey, you got a great haircut. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. My guy did a good job. I told him, I said, the last time before we cut it too short, I said, don't listen to me. If I tell you to cut it short, don't listen to me. I don't have enough of it left to cut it short anymore. Keep it short on the sides and the back, but leave it long in the front. I don't need to showcase my forehead. That's all I'm saying. Seems like it took forever to grow it back. Matt Power says he remembers me since Newegg. Yeah, so I did some videos for Newegg for about a year. I was a spokesman. I would drive out to California, shoot some videos for a couple days, and then come back to Phoenix. And then we'd do that about once a month. And yeah, it was a great experience. I really enjoyed working with the people at Newegg. I was frustrated with the corporate politics and bureaucracy and the red tape that kind of goes with most corporations. But the people themselves, they're all good people. You know, they're just the company culture there does not provide a very constructive means for innovative thought, because there's still the old-fashioned, the old-school pride and ego of the people in power, at least when I was there, that would defy all reasoning. You know, it was sort of like, well, we're not going to do your idea because it's your idea, it's not mine. I mean, it's not literally what was said, but that's what I heard. And that started to get frustrating. And I will say that the people that were sort of the top of the executive chain of the USA division of Newegg, super cool people, very nice, very approachable. They didn't look down at you or think they were better. At least they didn't give me that vibe at all. However, when I asked to have a private meeting with them, they couldn't be bothered. They didn't even respond to my email. So, I mean, there's that. But it's typical. There's nothing unusual about the way Newegg is run. I was hoping that it would be sort of a new generation of people running the corporation, but they're still running it in a very old-fashioned way. So, you know, it was fun while it lasted. It was a good experience. I'm glad I did it, but it wasn't going to last. I just don't have much tolerance for that. And it just started to erode, and it never got better. And yeah, and then it just broke. It's like, yeah, all right, well, you know, nothing lasts forever. You do the best you can with what you've got to work with. And if it does, you know, it worked great for a while, and it stopped working for whatever reason. You know, maybe from their perspective, I'm a difficult person to work with. I have very high standards. And if my standards were higher than Newegg standards, there were arguments, because I was the one on camera, not them. So when they wanted me to do something that I felt was not beneath me, but it reflected poorly on me as a technician, that I wouldn't make such recommendations because a sponsor's paying me, they didn't really seem to care. I say seem to care. I don't know. That's how I interpreted the situation. And so I would refuse to do it. And that might make me out to appear to be a difficult person to work with, because I have high standards. So I thought in time we'd get to know each other better, and we would both, what's the word that nobody does anymore? We would negotiate. We would give a little. Each of us would give a little bit to make it work. And it just got worse. Not only did the requests got to the point where it's like, I'm not doing that. There's no way I'm doing this. This is not what Carey Holzman does. Well, we're paying you. Well, then don't pay me, because I'm not doing it. You know, that's not how to negotiate. That's not a negotiation. Yeah. That's too bad. I had big plans. I had an argument with them one time where they said, we're not going to do your idea because it doesn't fit with our audience. I said, that's why you should do my idea. Why are you preaching to your choir? That doesn't make any sense to me. You've already got them as an audience. I'm trying to preach to the audience you don't yet have. And they just couldn't wrap their mind around it, or they didn't want to. I'm like, why would you make content for people that you already have? It doesn't make sense to me. Or they would misinterpret the YouTube analytics. That was so frustrating. They'd say, well, our average watch time is 8 minutes, so we better make 8-minute long videos. I'm like, are you new here? Is the internet a new concept? Of course, I don't talk like that, but that's what's going through my mind. I'm like, are we having this conversation? These are professionals, and they don't know how the internet works? So I'm like, okay, let me explain this to you. If you make 8-minute long videos because your average watch time is 8 minutes, then what do you think your average watch time is going to go to? You think it's going to go the full 8? It's probably going to be like 4. So if you go back and say, well, 4 minutes is our average watch time, we need to make 4-minute long videos. I mean, how long do you need me to carry this out before you're not making videos? If you want your watch time to increase from 8 minutes to 10 minutes, then instead of making 40-minute videos, you need to make 1-hour videos. You need to go the other way. The longer the video is, the longer the watch time is. You don't make content to align to the... This is like an old school TV mentality, like I'm talking, and maybe that's the problem. Because there's a lot of Hollywood influence. They're right there, right by Hollywood. So there's a lot of this Hollywood mindset. And it's like, this isn't Hollywood. This is the internet. Those numbers are completely the opposite from TV. You're misinterpreting these numbers, and you're doing the exact opposite thing you're supposed to be doing. You're making content for people that are already subscribed instead of making content to attract people you have yet to subscribe. Which one of those numbers do you think is bigger? And you want to lower your video watch time to match your average watch time. That's not how that works. And we would get into these preposterous arguments. And at the end of the day, I'm like, why do I care? It's not my business. If everything is done the way I say, and if I'm right, we will double the subscriptions, we will increase the watch time, and Newegg will make a lot of sales. But I won't make any more money. And someone else will probably take the credit. Maybe. And if I do what they ask me to do, which goes against my own value systems at times, I have to continue on regardless. So if the relationship breaks at some point for any reason, I still have to make a living, but now this is on the internet forever as part of my forever resume that anybody can look up. Forever. So I have a responsibility to myself to protect my career and not allow somebody flashing some cash around to tell me to make content that I feel is content I would never make. It may be perpetuating a common myth or beliefs that's simply not true, or just maybe taking money from a sponsor and saying what the sponsor wants you to say. And we had that discussion. I didn't come here to make commercials. I had this discussion. I didn't come here to be a spokesman for one of your brands. I came here to bring authenticity from a real technician to teach about how these parts work. And when I interview industry people, I'm asking questions not as a journalist, but as a technician. And I think my questions are, well, from my perspective, they're questions that I would love to have heard asked when I read a lot of interviews when people are promoting a product. I'm like, why didn't they ask about this? Why didn't they ask about that? Well, because that person's a journalist. They might be covering a car crash tomorrow and then a burglary the day after that, and now they're covering the new iPhone. You know, they're not technical people, they're journalists. So I thought I was bringing something very unique to the table. And once again, we go back to value. You know, whether or not the people saw value in that or not, I didn't have much control over it. I only had control over myself, which is, am I going to succumb to the pressure and do something I feel I shouldn't, that might come back to haunt me later, even if it means losing this job? Or do I shut up, do what I'm told, and ride it out as long as possible, be as cooperative as possible, and have no opinions? Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Because ultimately, what it means is, no matter what, I have to continue to live. I can't make it an employer's decision whether or not I can continue to live. And by continue to live, I mean I have to earn a living. And I can't allow an employer to tell me to do something that could impact my ability to make a living in this career without having to change careers. It's a very uncomfortable conversation to have because it sounds like you might be not a team member, you know what I mean? But it's not that. It's really just having a higher value system. It's saying, look, guys, the whole purpose I'm here, as far as I'm concerned, is the very thing that you're trying to remove from me. And if that's the case, replace me. You know, you don't need me anymore. I'm not what you want. So that sucks. That just sucks because when we did when we first kicked off, I'd say the first 6 months, I really looked forward to it. The team of people, the photographer, the editor, the producer, the directors that we use, the producers that we use, super people, and very interesting stories to tell because a lot of them had work in Hollywood. One guy did camera work for the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and stuff, and would tell you stuff going on behind the scenes of, what they were looking for when they were filming these reality shows, what they were told to look for as cameramen. The techniques that they used in filming and editing were very Hollywood style, very old school, which I thought was interesting on a technology perspective. But at the same time, they used very obsolete camera equipment with failing batteries up against the wall of a warehouse where there was constant noise, but they wanted perfect audio. So we'd have to reshoot constantly because of noise coming through the walls because the studio was not in a good location. And the camera equipment would fail on us constantly. So there's a lot of interruptions and a lot of frustration when you are to read a script and you don't screw it up. But the camera battery died, or the memory card got full, or the forklift in the warehouse started beeping as it was backing up, and it ruins the shot. So you get to do it again and again and again and again and again and again and again. So a 1 hour Newegg video took about 2 days to shoot. Yeah. When I left, Newegg was in the process of building a really nice studio in the building next door. And I got to walk through it while it was still under construction, and all the drywall wasn't up, but the walls were up, the 2x4s. They'd say, well, this is the production room. This is going to be Studio A, Studio B, Studio C. It was huge. I was like, wow, this is going to be incredible. All brand new camera equipment, brand new lighting. Really looked ideal, but I never got to see it complete. But I'm glad some of you caught me there on Newegg. I was hoping that my exposure on Newegg would lead to people subscribing to my channel. Matt Power says, to get along, you have to go along. Well, the word I was looking for is compromise. If one person is willing to compromise, but the other person is not, it's not getting along and it's not that you said it, but it's the way I heard it. It's not on me. I'm 50%. I'm half of it. But it requires the other folks involved to provide the other 50%. And if either party is unwilling or unable to meet that, it's just not going to work. It's really a very simple problem. It's also a very simple problem to solve once you push aside the egos. And look, I'm willing to make compromise. I'm not going to put my foot down and say absolutely not. There's always a way we can work through it, take a different approach, a different angle. But a paying sponsor is saying, well, this is what we're paying for, and we're not going to take anything less. And that's where it gets complicated, because you've got three parties involved. You've got the talent on camera, you got the corporation, And then you have the brand that is paying the corporation essentially to make a commercial. And so even though I was insisting I was making educational videos, they were all funded by large corporations, not Newegg. They were funded by Asus, LG, and then continue to be today, by the way. It's the same thing. There's a reason why you see more products from Lenovo and LG and Asus. Those companies have contractual arrangements with Newegg that are financial. And so that's the business model. It's not nefarious, but it's not Newegg doing what Newegg wants to do, right? The people paying to have the videos made are paying Newegg. And when you pay for something, you want what you paid for, don't you? So if Asus says, we're going to put JJ on and we're going to talk about our new motherboards and that's what we're going to do, then Newegg says, yes, that's what we're going to do. And I don't have a problem with that. I very much, one of the greatest pleasures I've had in my career is I've gotten to speak to some very knowledgeable people in the industry. And JJ is one of those people that impresses me so much with what he knows off the top of his head. It's incredible. I wouldn't believe it if I didn't experience it. I took JJ out to lunch and we're just having a casual conversation. And I mentioned I had this old Intel Core, like I'm struggling to remember the model of chip, right? It's like a Core i7 965. I remember it had the triple channel memory, and JJ's like, oh, the X58 chipset, right? That's what I'm like, I don't remember, but I think I think it was an X58. Like, that's just off the top of his head, casual conversation, no big deal. And so when it comes to like knowing the product, understanding the design and why it's designed that way, JJ never blew smoke. He never spun anything. He's a very logical, technical person with a great memory and absolutely one of the brightest individuals. Asus is so lucky to have him. They really are. And what a pleasure. Anytime that it was in the schedule to interview JJ, I was like, oh, this is good. And I remember JJ didn't know me very well and didn't really know my style. And we were filming something and they had to take a break. You know, the camera people had to take a break. And JJ goes, was that any good? I said, JJ, if you're crap, I'll tell you. And JJ, like, he just busted out laughing. I go, honestly, if there's anything that was crap, it was me. It's not you. But he obviously didn't expect that response from me. So when he laughed like that, that made me laugh. It made me feel good. And anytime I could make JJ laugh, that sort of, because JJ is a real serious guy. So my goal was always to sort of surprise him with something he's not expecting and just crack him up. When you can make JJ laugh, in my book, you have done a great thing, because he's a very technical guy. I said, JJ and I are having a conversation. He said, oh, well, just wait till Amazon starts delivering with drones. I'm like, Amazon's never going to deliver with drones. Oh, they're already starting to do it. I go, sure, in select areas they can do. This is all off-camera banter, you know, we're just nerds. I go, JJ, what if there's an apartment building in New York City and you've got, I don't know, how many people live in one drone is going to carry everybody's stuff? No, they're going to have to send 200 drones every day just for that one apartment building? It doesn't make any sense. And there's weight limits. I go, you know, the one thing you'll never be able to order via drone delivery from Amazon, ironically, is a drone. It'll be too heavy for the drone to carry. And JJ just about lost it. And I was like, and you know, I'm not being serious. I'm trying to be facetious, over the top, ridiculous. And, you know, it tickled JJ's brain, and that just, gosh, I love that. That makes me feel good. That's like an accomplishment. Proud of it. So there were a lot of good times over there at Newegg. Planet Cryos with $1.99. Thank you, Planet Cryos. I was trying to get your attention a little earlier if there was anything you wanted me to test or run on the machine while I've got it hooked up and running before I end the feed. Wayne Trexler with another contribution, $1.49. Thank you, Wayne. Also, Rick Hubbard, Talking about Rick earlier with a £5 contribution. John Young with a $5 contribution says, good talk, Russ. Michael McFarland contributes 250 Filipino peso. He says, Mr. Carey, thank you for all you do. Hey, Michael, thank you for your support, your continued support and contribution. Richard S. contributes $1.99. Thank you, Richard. And Christopher G. with $1.49. I think I got to that one already. Yeah. Just looking through the chat, biding some time here to see if Planet Cryos is going to respond. And barring that or any other questions, we will wrap it up for tonight. We're going on about 3 hours here. Matthew says the drones could just carry themselves, right? Hey, there's Mitch Hammond in the chat room. Haven't seen Mitch in a while. Mitch had a podcast for a while. I don't know. He was doing it and then he wasn't doing it. Good to see you, Mitch. I hope you're doing well. Oh, National Lampoon's Vacation. Good talk, Russ. I gotcha. Yeah, when Chevy Chase is talking to his son, Russ, and yeah. We're going to freaking Wally World. Blackwash is saying goodnight and thanks for the live feed. Hey, thanks for joining us. There's Peter still there in the chat room. Hey, Peter. Usually you're always on your way out, Peter. So when I see you give a contribution, I always just automatically think you're popping in and leaving to go to work or something. I didn't realize you've been sticking around the whole time. I'm glad you did, though. Thanks for hanging out with us. Joe V contributes $5. Is it Joe? It says, love your content and thank you. Well, thank you. Is it Jayo? My eyes are getting bad. Zero Core says, Carey, I've got a Sabrent USB to SATA adapter. And no matter what I am using, no matter if I'm using it or not, when I try to eject it, it always says you cannot eject device in use. Any ideas? You can use a program called USB Safely Remove. You can download that. Just Google USB Safely Remove. It shouldn't be necessary to eject devices anymore. As long as the drive isn't reading or writing to the drive, you should be able to safely pull the USB cable without having to eject it. The other thing you could try doing is open up your, this PC where it shows all the drive letters. Right mouse click on the drive letter of the Sabrent adapter and then choose eject like you would if it was a DVD drive. And if it said the drive is ejected, it's definitely safe to remove. Edius wants to know what I would sound like if I were in a northeastern accent, New York area. Ain't nothing wrong with being from New York City. What are you looking at? You got a problem with me? You get some coffee, you go down to Toity and Toyd. What, you got a problem with that? What do you need? Don't worry about it. Forget about it. It'd sound like that. Chris wants to know, what model USB 3 thumb drive do you recommend? I have a Kingston, and it isn't anywhere close to the rated speed. I recommend the SanDisk Extreme Pro line of USB flash drives. They're the ones you'll always see me or hear me clicking like it's a fidget spinner. I love these things. They're fast, they're small. You can get them up to 1 terabyte. Same size, physically the same size, 1 terabyte. I think the smallest they sell now is about 64 gigs. I love the switch on it. I love how it's got magnets in it that kind of lock it in place. It won't push down like some flash drives. Look, I'm pushing on my thumb and it won't go down. But yet it's super easy to just slide it back without any effort. It's a really smart engineering design. I've had one fail out of like 20 of them, and then I just sent it back to SanDisk and they sent me a new one, super easy, barely an inconvenience. And that was like a 16 gig one. So for the most part, I'm using, this is, I think, a 16. I think this one's a 64. I think this one's a 128. And I've got, look at here, brand new in a package. There's a 512 gig, and there's a 1 terabyte. I haven't even opened it up. I've got about 3 of these. Fast. You're looking at 400 plus megabytes per second on your reads. Pretty close to that on the writes. And they just last forever. Very fast drives. These are my spares. I got a couple of these ADATA Gold 64 gig drives, and I was trying to figure out where they came from. It just showed up in the mail one day. And then I realized, oh, I bought some CPUs from Newegg, and they had some deal. If you bought the CPU, you got a free 64 gig ADATA flash drive, and then they were out of stock, and they said, we'll ship them to you when they come in, and I didn't care. And it was like a month, and then this package arrived, and I thought a viewer sent these to me, and I'm like, oh, this was from Newegg. So you can see how much I care. These, I don't know, I haven't tried these. These are supposed to be USB 3.2. I haven't tested them yet. Obviously, they're still in a package. But I have plenty of other ADATA flash drive. Here's an ADATA flash drive. It's got a little slider. I don't like the sliders, so you don't really see me use it very often. And the performance on it doesn't compare to the SanDisk. So the SanDisk Extreme Pro. Thank you for asking that question. Look how prepared I was to answer it. Good squirrel. Elijah says, be careful, Carey. I'm a New Yorker. That's okay. I'll still like you anyway. I don't know what that means. I won't hold it against you. I was trying to think of something funny. That's all that happens. Blackwatch contributes 5 Canadian dollars. He says, here, just before I go. Hey, thanks. Right on. Vern mentions his mother has 2 sewing machines that would only recognize 2 gigabyte thumb drives. Yeah, some older hardware has those limits for sure. Zero Core says the USB safely remove software you suggested worked perfectly. I like that software so much I paid for it. It's a shareware program. I don't think it was much. I think it was 20, 25 bucks. I paid for it years ago, and the license still works today. So I would have thought by now Microsoft would have built that into Windows, because they tend to do that with good utilities. But it's not installed on any machines here, but over at Studio A, it's installed on my office computer. I still use USB Safely Remove with my license code that I purchased. Elisha says, thanks, Carey. No harm intended. Good. Well, I'm glad we can. New Yorkers are pretty good about taking jokes, right? Giving them and taking them. My kind of people. Jason Wyrick says, I know of your sickness with flash drives, the gold ones from Newegg. Well, you know, they're still in a package. Gita says, just to let you know, the safely remove software is built into Windows. No, it isn't. It isn't. USB safely remove is a much, much better interface and has better controls. It's not built into Windows. It is not. People saying there's no reason to use USB safely remove must not have had this problem we're trying to solve. But sometimes you'll plug a USB device in and you want to eject it, even though you don't necessarily have to with the latest version of Windows 10. And it won't let you. It'll say the device is in use, even though it is not in use by any processes that you're aware of. And it doesn't really help anything beyond that. So where USB safely remove comes in is it can show you the process that's locking the drive and then stop that individual process. It brings it right to your attention. It highlights it, says this is the process. Or USB safely remove might say, we don't know what's preventing this. Do you want to force a stop? So you don't have to dig through any, submenus. It's right there presented immediately upon you trying to eject the drive officially with the eject command to the USB controller. And Microsoft does a piss poor job of giving the user any control if something is wrong. Now, there might be more control if you delve into, drilling down into some menuing areas of Windows 10. I don't know. I can't be bothered because USB safely remove brings it right to the forefront, right immediately as you're requesting it. So there are even occasions where USB safely remove can't stop the device, and in which case, just pull the device. At that point, it's safe to remove. And if you're really super cautious, turn the computer off and then remove the flash drive and then turn the computer back on. But that's really overkill. But it is not. USB safely remove in the way that it functions in its interface is not a part of Windows 10. If it's not a problem that affects you, then don't worry about it. But if it is a problem that affects you, don't listen to those people that are talking about you don't need it. Because obviously, if you didn't need it, you wouldn't be asking the question. Oh, don't worry, that's not a problem. But it is. No, it isn't. There's a black helicopter. No, that is a pigeon. Well, thanks for your help. Richard S. says, what's the squirrel's nickname? I don't think Scrat? I don't know. I never really thought to give the squirrel a name. Jason says, I didn't know there was a utility for removing a flash drive. That's really neat. Yeah, and there's a free version of it, and there's a paid version. I can't remember what the difference is. I know I paid for the paid version, and it was worth every penny. Elijah says he's missing Studio A. Yeah, well, the Studio A is still there. It's just being used for other purposes, and I can't simultaneously use it for filming at the same time. So when that changes, presumably when the pandemic is over, I can film more over there, especially coming this summer, because this place is hot. It's always been hot in the summer, like unbearably hot. Even if the air conditioner is running full blast, it's too hot. In Studio A, I can actually chill it down, and it actually chills down in the summertime. So if the situation with the pandemic changes, I will desperately want to get back to Studio A rather than stay in this really hot place. We're only in April. You just wait. When it's June and July and August, if I'm still here, I'm going to have to get some kind of a portable air conditioner. I'm sure it's going to affect my sound quality, but I'm going to have to do something because it's already too hot. About naming the squirrel Carey the squirrel. How would you tell us apart? That's from Master Singleton. Name the squirrel Mitch. But then how would you know Mitch from the squirrel? How would you know which one I was talking about? Aaron's talking about Windows 10 quick removal. I don't know if Aaron's new here, but I've covered that several times on this channel. And in fact, there's a quick tips video explaining how you can speed up your USB devices, several USB devices, by turning that feature off, which is now on by default for quick removal. Some people were complaining that their USB speeds had dropped, and it's because the caching that was the default in Windows was enabled. And so you could unplug a drive that said it was done copying when in fact it was still copying. It was filling a buffer or a cache. And this created a lot of confusion for people. And so I made a quick tips video about it, and you can find it here on the channel if you want to learn more about it. But it's just kind of, it's a little annoying when people tell me stuff that I already talked to other people a long time ago. It's just like a little offensive. I understand they're intending to help, but it's like, seriously? You're going to tell me something I already said? Thanks for letting me know what I already said. But I know that's not the intent. And nobody could possibly see all of my videos. But I would expect, I mean, the quick tips videos, there's not very many of them. And they're all probably about 6 minutes long on average. Some go maybe 10 or 12, but most of them are under 10 minutes. And it just gets right to the point, and it covers all this real common stuff. Yeah. Toto the squirrel. I couldn't name the squirrel Toto. I have personal reasons. Patrick Rousseau recommends Poindexter. I don't know. That squirrel doesn't look like a Poindexter to me. Aaron says, hey, no offense taken, Carey. The quick removal feature was in response to the safely remove hardware. Yeah. So again, I covered all this, but yeah. Zero Core says, how much longer are you streaming for? I was giving some time to Planet Cryos if he had anything he wanted me to run on the machine here before I wrapped it up. That was about 15 minutes ago. And it looks like if he's responded, I haven't seen it. So I guess he's busy. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. I think I'll wrap it up now, as a matter of fact. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks to my friends in blue for trying, well, not trying, he really did keep the chat room under control. I do have a little bone to pick with any moderator that undoes another moderator's actions. That's not for you to do. That's my job. Anything that a trusted person in blue does is not for you to judge. That's for me to judge. And if you feel that somebody in blue has done something they shouldn't, then you should send me an email after the show. Note the time on the video. So at this video, we're like 3 hours and 13 minutes in. And you could say, Carey, at about 3 hours and 13 minutes in, this person did this that I feel they shouldn't have done. I really don't want you to go after other moderators. We're all community members here, and we need to support each other. And you can take matters like that up with me personally. We don't need to interrupt a live stream to deal with interpersonal issues of things you don't agree with. What I saw, I didn't like. I don't like seeing somebody in blue undoing another person in blue's actions. Okay? And if I see somebody in blue do that to another blue person, then the person who undoes it is the one I'm going to remove their blue status, at least temporarily. I realize these rules aren't written down, but this should be common courtesy. These aren't, people in blue are not just random people. These are people that I feel I've gotten to know and trust. And so I'm a bit surprised that I would have to remove anybody from blue. And when I do it, I'm not happy about it. But it doesn't have to be permanent. So as long as we have an understanding going forward, I'm all about that, as long as people are willing to accept. If it's too much for you, then I just won't bury you with that responsibility. It's maddening to me to watch one person's work undone by another person when you're both equal. That is not your place. And I take offense to it. So if you're blue, you will never upset me by doing nothing. I will never get upset by it. If you start banning people who don't deserve to get banned, I'm going to have a problem with it. If you time out people who don't deserve to be timed out, I'm going to have a problem with it. If you undo the actions of another moderator without me instructing you to do so, I'm going to have a problem with it. When somebody comes into the chat room and they're vulgar or they're spamming and it's pretty obvious it's a bot, please feel free to ban them. If somebody speaks in a foreign language, don't ban them or time them out. I've seen moderators do that. If somebody bans somebody because they're talking about politics or religion, that's not for you to decide. It's when people get vulgar. It's when people start spamming, where it's very obviously a bot, or it's, hey, come check out my channel, or it's, I very much appreciate when you ban those disruptors. But if it's a genuine person who maybe doesn't know the rules and maybe they're swearing or they're saying something that's not family friendly, let them know. And if they continue that behavior, then time them out. Like, to me, all this should be common sense. We're a community here. We don't know these people. We don't barely know each other. You know me a lot more than I know you, generally speaking. So I'm putting a lot of trust in you if I'm making you blue. And you will never, ever betray my trust by just doing nothing. If you see somebody and it's not clear to you if they should be timed out or banned, don't do anything. Better to be safe than sorry. And if somebody in blue does something you don't agree with, send me an email immediately. I will get to it after the show. Please mark the time so I can watch the playback. It's my channel, and I will determine how that needs to be dealt with. That's not your decision to make. I really want my friends in blue to help me, not add on to my pile of grief. So I can only ask you, and I hate to interrupt a live stream about computer building to talk about what I expect from people in blue. That should be common sense. But here we are. When people are given blue status, it's not for life. I mean, it could be, but it can be taken away. And if it's taken away, it's not for life. It could be, but it can be reapplied. I just need to make sure that the people involved understand that we're all on the same page and we can have a second go. But it may take a few days. It might take a couple of weeks. There's got to be a little cooling off period, and then we'll reapproach it. Be patient, and the people that are here for the right reasons won't care if they're blue or not. If you're only here because you have some power trip in being blue, I'd rather you weren't here. I hope you're here for the content, and I hope you're here to help me to keep from people in the live streams attempting to disrupt. We haven't really seen that in a long time. And so I guess we're a little rusty on it, some of us. But again, just do nothing if you're uncertain. Just do nothing. I'll never be upset if you do nothing. But just undoing another moderator's decision is only something I can do, as far as I'm concerned. And for you to overstep, for you to make that decision on my behalf without my consent, it's really offensive. I mean, put yourself in my shoes. You think you know what's best for me? I'm telling you. And the people in blue, you're really saving me a lot of grief. You guys are doing such a great job in there. It's been a long time since we've had any issues. So I would prefer it was a long time before we have any more issues. Not trying to replace one issue with another one. Jason Ryrick says, if I unhid someone, it was unintentional. That's fine. I mean, people make mistakes, yeah. but it's pretty clear. It confirms your action. And if you can't tell me what you did, then maybe best you don't do that anymore, right? If several people are trying to hide somebody at the same time, let's say, then the first one may hide it and the second one may unhide it, and it's completely unintentional. This is where it goes back to do nothing. Let somebody else, it's already being taken care of. But the last message will say, it'll show up, this person was hidden, this person was unhidden. And if that's the last message regarding that person, then that person remains unhidden until somebody steps in and corrects it again. And it's frustrating. It gets to be too many people trying to help at the same time, getting in each other's way. Some of you need to step back. And if you see somebody's already on top of it, let them do it. That's the best advice I've got. If you're both doing it at the same time and you're constantly undoing each other's work, one of you needs to step back. The chances of both of you being here on every live stream is highly unlikely. And if you enjoy that and you like banning people, come to another live stream and try again. There's usually plenty to pick from lately. I don't know what's going on, but it sure is helping my YouTube view numbers, so I can't complain. But I appreciate it. You can send me an email and talk about it. If it's a mistake, it's a mistake. It's fine. But it's not a mistake that should keep being made over and over and over again. I don't want to see the same person doing the same thing constantly. If it's just a one-time thing, it happened one time. But if it's happening over and over, it looks pretty intentional to me. Ghost Shadow was talking about different languages and what he or she feels, I guess it's he, if you're in an English-speaking forum, you should speak English. If you're in a German-speaking forum, you should speak German. But it's not, I never quite understood why people do that. Sometimes you'll look at my comments in one of my videos and you might see 300 comments all in English and then one person posts in a foreign language. Like, why did they do that? And you can easily use Google Translate. You can highlight the message and translate. It's pretty easy to tell Spanish from French. And oftentimes Google will make a recommendation for you. If you don't know what language it is, just type that exact thing in the YouTube with the word translate and it'll come up with suggestions for what language it thinks it is and what language it thinks you speak based on your Google page. And offer its translation. You should be able to get the gist of it if it's, spam or vulgar. But who's that message for? How many people can read that language? So how effective is the vulgarity or the spamming if nobody can understand it? That's why it's really not a problem. Just ignore it. It's not hurting anything because nobody knows what it is for the most part. And those who do, such a small amount of people, who cares? So that the two people want to amuse themselves, let them. It's not hurting anybody. Who knows? Maybe you'll learn to speak another language from reading the comments. I've learned some new words. They're English words, but still. All right, guys, thank you again for joining me today. Thanks to Planet Cryos. I'll get this buttoned up tonight, and then I will, I've got another machine I want to do for AC's drafting, another one similar to this. This is kind of a one-off case, so I want to get rid of it. I don't know that I have any other spare cases that are, I'll probably just use a 200R because they're cheap. Another Core i5, another build, it'll go quickly. I think the whole build time of this video was, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of a 3-hour video. The rest was me pontificating on facets of running a YouTube channel, people's behavior on the internet, and value systems. What are you gonna do? So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for all the generous contributions today from, let's see, we got Richard S. and Blackwatch and GOV and Wayne Trexler, of course, Planet Cryos, Rick Hubbard, John Young, Michael McFarland. We've got Richard S. in there again, Christopher G. Stealth Mode, again from Christopher G. Mortmont, 1210, again from Blackwatch, Pratap Gaming, Gunrig, Pratap Gunrig. Peter Laycock, Planet Cryos again. There's Joe Bush, Planet Cryos again, and Blackwatch again, and Ghost Shadow again. Michael Horrico, Jason C., Patrick Rusaw, another from Blackwatch, Ramsey Elmorardi, another yet again from Planet Cryos, who's just basically paid for this computer through these contributions. Gainsy95, Master Singleton, Wayne Trexler, again, thank you so much. Fred Sunderman, your auto advocate, I think his name is Michael. Thank you, Michael. Master Singleton again, David Griswold, Bike Man, Master Singleton again. There's AC's Drafting. Thank you so much, as always. Ben George, Ken Ryan, again for Master Singleton. There's a lot from Master Singleton tonight. I didn't realize just how many. Thank you so much. Rick Lakes, always good to see you, my friend. Thank you for your continued support. Tweaks with that $100 Canadian, very generous. Thank you so much. Whatever your name is, I'll just call you Tweaks. Mike Podukowitz, and our first contribution today, that's from a good friend of the channel here, Frankie B. He's always kind and generous. Thank you so much, guys, for your support in making this possible. Again, without the support, I'd still be making videos, but fewer videos. And the variety of the content I'm able to create, and like these giveaways and things, are only made possible through the support of the community. And I'm trying to give it back to the community. You don't see me with the Tesla because I don't make enough. But I'm also not squirreling away all the contributions so I can buy a Tesla. You'll see those contributions go back to the community as much as possible, whether it's more lighting, a different studio. This bench I'm working on is $900. I mean, it's stuff costs a lot of money, but what I'm trying to, if you haven't figured it out by now, is I'm taking that money and I'm putting it back into the channel or back into the community. It's not being hoarded. So the evidence is on screen. So thank you again for all of your support, whether you're just a viewer or you're a contributor. Either way, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being a part of this amazing community that we're creating. That's ultimately the most important part of everything that I'm doing, is the community. It's not about the money and it's not about the giving. It's just about finding a kind community of supportive individuals on the internet, as big as this is. That is priceless. I will see you all, I hope, tomorrow. I'm going to try. And if not, Thursday. I do, final squirrel, Friday. It's going to be Mitch Morrison Fridays for a while, I think. I am saving special builds for Mitch Morrison to join me on camera, to build with me. Last week, we had that tube computer that Mitch and I built. The week before that, didn't we do something? We did the Be Quiet build, the Silent Base 802. And then we did that for like 3 weeks because I had problems. But we've got a new system in place, so that shouldn't happen anymore. And I'm hoping we can do every Friday or every other Friday builds with Mitch. They always start at 1 p.m. Arizona time. So a lot of people want to know, when are you going to go live next? And I always say, hey, as time permits. But Mitch and I are finding a groove, and it's been working out really well. And we're going to keep it going. And if I have anything like a special build, I'll save it for Fridays with Mitch. So this Friday, we'll do the mini attack helicopter case. Yeah. I'm going to regret this. But good to hang out with Mitch, though. That part I won't regret. It's the mini helicopter case and the cable management. Thank you so much for tuning in, for being a part of the community. Armando Garcia just contributed $5. Hey, thank you, Armando. You just got that in under the wire. Yes, stealth mode. It'll be Mitchin' Fridays. Nice. So yes, you look forward to that. Fridays at 1 o'clock. I don't know if we'll do every Friday or every other Friday, but and then of course that's assuming Mitch isn't traveling or anything. But things permitting, I hope to make that a regular thing here. Thank you so much. I will see you all again very, very soon. And until then, I have to find an outro. Okay, I found one. Until then, bye for now.